Little embarrassed, Yi Xian found it funny and spread his hands helplessly. Okay, I think this thing tastes pretty good, you can drink it as a beverage later. Hey! Okay. A few little girls were the first to get excited. Originally, when they heard it was medicine, they were not greedy at all. But now when I heard it was a drink, I suddenly wanted to try what it tasted like. Master, you are really my good master. I won't be polite then. Long Fei also suddenly became excited and blinked at Yi Xian. Hey, junior sister, have you ever thought that this is something I brought? Sun Ji looked at Long Fei with disdain, but also took out all the remaining medicines in the bag. For now, we should first provide this medicine to the Yanhuang Military Department, the Fire Department, the Police Department and other departments. When the production capacity can be increased, we will provide it to the general public. Yi Xian read the receipt carefully, and then looked at Sun Ji seriously. Okay, master. Sun Ji nodded, gritted his teeth and remembered something, then asked. By the way, master, do we still need to set a price for this thing? Price? As soon as Long Fei heard the word money, her eyes lit up immediately. Good stuff, this is good stuff. Let me do the math. If a bottle of medicine costs 10,000 yuan, there will be a profit of trillions. If this can be circulated, it is unimaginable what kind of profit it will bring. Ha ha ha. At this moment, stars twinkled in Long Fei's eyes, as if he saw the grand spectacle of a large piece of gold falling from the sky. Yi Xian picked up the tea, took a sip, looked at Sun Ji and said seriously. Oh, no need to set a price, everything is free. It's free now and it will be free in the future. Afterwards, Yi Xian sighed with a wry smile, looked at Long Fei who was still counting the profits on his fingers, and rubbed his temples. Long Fei, you are good in every way, except for one thing. Master, what's wrong with me? Long Fei looked at Yi Xian and asked curiously. As for you, you reek of money. From now on, try to stay away from us and don't infect us with your money. Long Fei, at ##. Chapter 141 Tang Sword. Ahem. Senior brother, this matter of yours shouldn't be urgent, right? Why did you make a special trip here? After being choked, Long Fei coughed a few times and then looked at Sun Ji. Junior sister, you are right. By the way, I am going abroad soon. Going abroad? Now it was Long Fei's turn to be shocked. He was a little overwhelmed. These words actually came out of Sun Ji's mouth? She knew Sun Ji well. Let alone going abroad, he was the kind of person who wouldn't even leave the mountains. Brother, why are you going abroad for no reason? Do you think your business scope in China is too small? Sun Ji paused, then looked at Sun Ji in surprise and asked doubtfully. The others were also looking at Sun Ji, not knowing what was going on. Hey, I'm going abroad. I'm going to the southern three places. There's a medicinal material exchange meeting there, and I want to go and exchange some medicinal materials I need. As soon as these words were spoken, not only Long Fei, but everyone else was also stunned. What a coincidence! We are also going abroad to the southern three places. Yi Xia pouted her lips and was so excited that she danced with joy. This is great. With so many of us, it's going to be so lively. The other little girls were also giggling and seemed quite happy about this matter. Then don't leave, stay here, we'll be together then. Yi Xian was also slightly stunned, then said to Sun Ji with a smile. Well, that's fine. Thank you, master. After that, everyone started discussing the trip abroad, and the little girls were even more excited, and they went back to the room to pack their luggage. At night, the villa was bustling with activity. In the living room, several little girls were playing with Long Fei, while Sun Ji and Yi Xian were drinking tea on the side. Come on, it's time for dinner. While drinking tea, Yi Xian looked at the time and saw that it was almost time, so he stood up and prepared to go to the kitchen to cook. Hey, master, where are you going? At this time, Long Fei came over and playfully stopped Yi Xian. I'm going to cook, otherwise what will we eat? Yi Xian glanced at Long Fei and said lightly. Long Fei was looking at the bustling scene around him, his eyes turned, and suddenly he had another idea. Oh, by the way, why don't we eat dumplings? It'll be quite lively with so many people around. Let's make dumplings together. After all, in China's traditional culture, dumplings represent reunion. Now Yi Xian's family has been reunited, and the master and apprentice are also gathered together. This is indeed a day worth remembering. Well, that's fine, let's make dumplings then. Yi Xian touched his chin, thought for a while, and soon agreed with the idea. Little girls, let's eat dumplings tonight, okay? Thinking about it, Yi Xian walked to the girls and asked them lovingly. Good. The girls smiled and nodded, then excitedly threw themselves into Yi Xian's arms. By the way, Dad, can we make dumplings too? Yi Shi pouted and looked at Yi Xian, making the motion of kneading dough. Well, of course you can. Dad will teach you later. Soon, everyone unanimously decided that dumplings would be for dinner. In this way, no one was idle. Yi Xian and Sun Ji chopped the meat and cut the stuffing, while Wang Xinyao pulled Chen Jing and Long Fei to knead and roll the dough together, and they were having a lot of fun. The little girls helped to mix the dumpling stuffing and rolled out the dumpling skins from time to time. They were so excited. Okay, now that the preparations are done, we can start making dumplings. Finally, Wang Xinyao wiped the sweat from her face, smiled and clapped her hands. Come on, don't just stand there. Yi Xian smiled, rolled up his sleeves, walked to the table, and started making dumplings skillfully. It's no wonder that Yi Xian is really good at making dumplings. In no time, a delicate and small dumpling appears in front of everyone. Wow! Dad is awesome! A few little girls watching from the side couldn't help but exclaimed. Dad! Teach us quickly! We want to make it too! Immediately, several girls surrounded Yi Xian and wanted him to teach them how to make dumplings. Okay, Dad will teach you. Yi Xian smiled and nodded, then began to teach him step by step. The little girls also learned very seriously. Although the dumplings they made were a little crooked at the beginning, they finally made them quite well. As Long Fei was wrapping the clothes, she couldn't help but sigh in her heart. She almost didn't recognize her current master. In the past, Yi Xian was rarely seen smiling, let alone the smile he had now towards these little girls, which was almost like doting. Thinking of this, Long Fei couldn't help but smile and shook her head. Being able to see such a scene, she felt relieved. I was originally worried that Master's life would be too lonely, but now I see that there is no need to worry anymore. At this time, everyone was talking and laughing while making dumplings, except Sun Ji, who was standing aside, not knowing what he was doing. Brother, don't you know how to make dumplings? Long Fei noticed Sun Ji and couldn't help but chuckle. Yeah, I've never made dumplings before. Sun Ji smiled helplessly, he knew nothing about this. Brother, you are a first-rate expert in acupuncture and bone setting, but you can't make dumplings. This is a bit unreasonable. Long Fei covered her mouth and smiled, but didn't say anything. Uncle Sun, can't you make dumplings? A few little girls were wrapping dumplings meticulously nearby. When they heard that Sun Ji didn't know how to do it, they swarmed to Sun Ji and pulled him over. Uncle Sun, we just learned it. Can we teach you? Yi Jing chuckled, picked up a piece of dumpling wrapper, and began to demonstrate to Sun Ji in an awkward manner. Sun Ji had a wry smile on his face at this time, not knowing what to say, so he had to follow the little girls and learn seriously. At this time, everyone else couldn't help but cover their mouths and laugh. No matter how you look at this scene, it seems a bit funny. These little girls actually surrounded a famous Chinese doctor and taught him how to make dumplings. Yi Xian smiled and said to Sun Ji jokingly, you should learn this, too. It might be useful in the future. See if you can make a medicinal dish similar to dumplings. Sun Ji was silent, not knowing what to say. There is actually such a thing. Amidst the warm and harmonious atmosphere of laughter and chatter, Sun Ji successfully learned how to make dumplings, and Wang Xinyao brought over the hot pot. The dumplings were almost done and could be put into the pot. Done. Uncle Sun has learned it. The little girls looked very proud at this moment, as if they were little teachers who had taught some good students. Great. Yi Xian walked over with a smile, squatted down and interacted intimately with the little girls for a while. Dad, I have a question. But at this time Yi Shi scratched his little head, looked at Yi Xian, and then looked at Sun Ji. Dad, Uncle Sun is your apprentice, and we just became Uncle Sun's master. Isn't that a bit weird? Everyone looked at Xiao Shi's innocent face and couldn't help laughing when she said these words without restraint. Ha ha ha. Yi Xian was immediately happy and rubbed the little girl's face. You guys are really smart little brats. Are you trying to steal your father's apprentice? Sun Ji listened to everyone's laughter and smiled awkwardly. Alright. Time to eat dumplings. At this time, Wang Xinyao had already taken out the first pot of dumplings that had just been cooked and placed them on an exquisite jade plate. Come and try it. Seeing that the dumplings were ready, everyone put down what they were doing, picked up a pair of clean chopsticks, and started tasting them. Yeah, that's great. Yi Xian ate one and nodded with satisfaction. Then, he looked at the little ones beside him who were still swallowing their saliva, picked up another one, blew it to cool it down a little, and then handed it to the girls. Long Fei watched from the side, chuckled and said to Yi Xian, "Master, can you help me blow it too? You have hands and feet, why do you want me to blow you?" Yi Xian gave her an unpleasant look and continued to feed the little girls. Okay. After feeling humiliated, Long Fei stuck out his tongue and had to pick up the chopsticks and start eating. And that night, the villa was filled with laughter until very late. A day later, on a chartered plane bound for the southern three lands, Yi Xian sat on the chair, looking down, his eyes complicated and full of thoughts. Wang Xinya watched the scene from the side and gently held Yi Xian's hand. "What's wrong, husband? Is there something on your mind?" Hearing the sound, a few little girls poked their heads out from behind and asked in a baby voice, "Dad, what's wrong with you?" Yi Xian finally reacted and looked at the little girls with a smile, a hint of tenderness in his eyes. "Did you know? This is where Dad used to stay." The little girls were also surprised and looked outside through the plane windows. "Dad, but we can't see anything." The little ones opened their eyes wide, but above the clouds, everything seemed hazy and they couldn't see anything clearly. On the other side, Long Fei and Sun Ji sat together, and Tang Hao also sat aside, looking down. This is the territory of the southwestern branch of the Yanhuan Military Department, and further ahead is the border. Brother Yi's sword and red flag are still standing there. Below the plane, next to the border stone on the borderline, under a bunch of red flags, a Tang sword was inserted at this moment. Chapter 142 Arrival at the Southern Three Lands. The blade of the Tang sword is jet black, ink black, and the blade is slender, revealing a full murderous aura. Looking at the handle of the knife again, it seemed as if there was still a trace of temperature left. Even after so many years, it is still chilly, standing in a corner under the sky, a corner beside the border. After the plane landed, everyone walked on a foreign land, looking at the surrounding infrastructure and the slightly dilapidated airport, and lamented that the economy here is not as good as that in China. At this time, many people from the Chamber of Commerce that Long Fei had established had already arrived at the airport to greet them. They did not dare to be negligent at all. After meeting them at the airport, they arranged Yi Xian and others to stay in the most luxurious hotel in the area. At this moment, the little girl was looking at the largest and most luxurious suite in the hotel. It had complete facilities, huge space, and luxurious and exquisite decoration. It was already the most expensive presidential suite in the hotel. "It's nice here." Compared with the scenery after coming out of the airport before, the hotel here is very different. The little girls are also very satisfied and run around in the room, very excited. After settling down, Long Fei and Sun Ji also left, preparing to go about their own business, leaving only Yi Xian and his family in the hotel. At this moment, another group of people quietly walked out of the airport. These people are also from China. There are many Chinese people in these three southern areas, so they did not attract much attention. But the leader of this group of people was none other than Li Yanji, the heir of the Li family who had gone to look for Yi Xian before. This guy was walking on the road at this time, with a proud look on his face, and a noble aura exuded all over his body. It seemed as if everything around him was not worthy of being mentioned in the same breath with him, the third son of the Li family, and could only serve as a foil. As a direct descendant of the Li family, one of the 8 major families in China, he naturally has an innate pride, which is particularly evident in this small foreign country. What a lousy place this is. Li Yanji looked at everything around him that was shabby and backward, a hint of disgust revealed in his eyes, and he spat on the ground. "Master Li, calm down. The economy of this small country is bound to lag behind. There is nothing we can do about it." The man in a suit next to Li Yanji smiled flatteringly and quickly explained to Li Yanji, "I know, there is no need for a place like this to exist." Li Yanji ignored him and just looked ahead with a grim look. At this time, on the opposite side, a middle-aged man was walking towards Li Yanji and his group. Judging from the middle-aged man's appearance and clothes, it is obvious that even if he is not a local, he is a guy who lives here permanently. "Mr. Li, welcome. How was your trip?" The man smiled and welcomed Li Yanji and others in not-so-standard Mandarin, and politely extended his hand to Li Yanji. Li Yanji also smiled, politely shook the other person's hand, and said with a smile, "That's good. Thank you for taking the trouble to come here in person." At this time, Li Yinji was also quite polite to this person, without a trace of arrogance. Although he is from the Li family and is admired by everyone in China, this is outside after all. Moreover, the other party is the leading pharmaceutical company here and also the local tyrant. The purpose of their visit this time is to negotiate cooperation with the other party on behalf of the Li family. Since they were here to discuss cooperation, they naturally had to be more humble. Even Li Yinji, who was a proud man, restrained himself completely at this moment, for fear of displeasing the other party. No, no. You are all guests from outside, this is what you should do. The middle-aged man smiled and waved his hand, then continued. Everyone, we have arranged a hotel for you, please follow me. Excuse me. Please go first. Li Yinji also smiled politely and waved his hand gently, and the group followed the middle-aged man and walked forward. In the hotel, several little girls were running around in the room, playing with the black cat, and then playing hide-and-seek in the room, without showing any sign of tiredness. Yi Xian and Wang Xinyao were standing in front of the window, admiring the scenery downstairs together. These little girls don't know how to be tired. Wang Xinyao felt helpless as she looked at the laughter of the little ones filling the room. Well, they are just excited. After all, they are in a foreign country and it's so new. As he was talking, Yi Xian also felt extremely bored staying in the hotel, so he walked over to the girls. Girls, aren't you tired? Yi Xian squatted down and rubbed Yi Jing's little face in front of him, with a hint of pampering on his face. Dad, we are not tired, we are so happy today. Then Daddy will take you out to play, okay? We can't stay here all the time. Okay, Dad. When the maids heard that they were going out, they nodded obediently and their attention was diverted with just one sentence. Then let's go out now. Yi Xian smiled and nodded, then turned around and waved to Wang Xinyao who was standing by the window. Xinyao, let's go out for a walk. Good. Wang Xinyao nodded and walked to Yi Xian with a smile. After leaving the hotel, they went to a nearby commercial street. Walking in this foreign country, the little girls were curious about everything, their eyes were wide open, not wanting to miss any scenery. Hey! What is this? As he walked, Yi Shi noticed a tea garden ahead. The appearance of the tea garden looks like a kind of traditional Chinese architecture, full of charm. So much so that it seems so special in this southern region. Well, there's actually a tea garden here. Yi Xian also saw the tea garden and was inevitably a little surprised. Then he smiled and looked at the little girls around him. Come on, Dad will take you to have some tea. Afterwards, the group walked to the entrance of the tea garden. Before they went in, their eyes were already looking inside unconsciously. The environment and decoration inside are also ancient and quaint, with a kind of intimacy coming from the hearts of Chinese men and women, and this is even more obvious in other countries. In this tea garden, there is a faint fragrance of tea. In addition, there are many green plants and some light music played by ancient musical instruments. In general, the environment and atmosphere here are eye-catching to Yi Xian and others. While the tables and chairs are retro and heavy, the calligraphy and paintings decorating the walls and the floor also have a Jiangnan flavor. Oh, I didn't expect to come across such a place here. Looking at all this, Yi Xian smiled with emotion, and then let everyone in. There weren't many people inside at this time. There was only a girl in her 20s sitting aside drinking tea. Her temperament and dress made her look like a boss. The girl is young and beautiful, but also gives people a mature and capable temperament. At this moment, she is making tea skillfully, and her speech and manners are very elegant. It feels so comfortable here. A few little girls pouted and looked around the tea garden. It was obvious that they liked this place very much. At this time, the girl who was making tea heard the voices of the little girls and quickly got up to greet them. Xinyao. But when the girl raised her eyes, the first thing she saw was Wang Xinyao, who was wearing white casual clothes. Xinyao, why are you here? The girl's voice was trembling at this time. She was stunned at first, then walked forward excitedly and grabbed Wang Xinyao's hand. At this time, several little girls in Yi Xian were all staring at the girl, and they all looked at Wang Xinyao in confusion. Gao Meng. It's really you. Wang Xinyao also covered her mouth at this time, she was extremely excited. This girl is none other than her college classmate Gao Meng. It seems that this world is still a little too small. I never thought that I would meet you here. Gao Meng held Wang Xinyao's hand, also full of confusion. By the way, Xinyao, why are you here for no reason? My daughters are on vacation, so my husband and I brought them here for a trip. What? Girl? It wouldn't matter if he didn't say it, but when Gao Meng said it, he was so surprised that his jaw almost dropped. He looked at the little girls in disbelief, his mouth opened into an O shape. Yes, you haven't seen them yet, these 5 little girls are all my daughters. Wang Xinyao smiled and nodded, looking at the little ones lovingly. Oh, so cute. They are just like little princesses. Gao Meng looked at the little girls with love in his eyes. He hugged the girls and kissed them for a while, then stood up and looked at Yi Xian. Xinyao, this is your husband, right? Yes. Wang Xinyao nodded without hesitation and introduced Yao Meng. I haven't introduced you yet, this is my husband Yi Xian. Honey, this is my college classmate Gao Meng. Gao Meng hadn't noticed it just now, but now he was looking at Yi Xian and was slightly stunned. This guy is too handsome. Too elegant. She has seen countless people in this tea house, but she has never seen a man like this. Both his appearance and temperament are so outstanding. Hello, Mr. Yi. Nice to meet you. Gao Meng came back to his senses and greeted Yi Xian with a smile. Hello, Miss Gao. Yi Xian also nodded and smiled politely. Ah, look at my brain. I've been talking to you for a long time, but I didn't even let you come in and sit down. Come in and sit down. Follow me over here. At this time, Gao Meng also realized this, smiled awkwardly, and invited everyone to sit down. After everyone sat down, Gao Meng and Wang Xinyao, who hadn't seen each other for a long time, had more and more to talk about. Gao Meng, when did you come here? How come we didn't know? Wang Xinyao looked around the tea garden and couldn't help but ask. It's like this, because my parents do business here, they invested in opening a tea garden for me. We actually have quite a few classmates here. Among them, Lu Meng's family is the most prosperous one, and they are in the pharmaceutical industry. Gao Meng talked about himself and also thought of many of his classmates here. After taking a look at the current time, Gao Meng smiled and looked towards the door. They should be here soon. Real? Wang Xinyao was delighted when she heard this. She hadn't seen these sisters from college for a long time. Really? You guys sit down first, I'll go make a pot of tea and it should be here soon. Gao Meng smiled, then got up and went to make tea. After a while, outside the tea garden, several girls walked towards the door together. These girls are dressed luxuriously, all wearing famous brands. Not only are they beautiful, they also look very elegant. Gao Meng, here we come. After entering the tea garden, the leading girl shouted with a smile. Here it comes. Gao Meng came out upon hearing the sound, quickly welcomed the few people in, and pointed at Wang Xinyao who was sitting inside and said, Look, who is this? Wang Xinyao. Suddenly, these girls were stunned, their pupils contracted violently, and then they walked towards Wang Xinyao. Xinyao, it's really you. One of the girls excitedly pulled Wang Xinyao's hand, not knowing how to describe her inner excitement. I just found out you're here too, come and sit down. Wang Xinyao stood up and looked at the girls in front of her who seemed familiar but also somewhat unfamiliar, and quickly pulled them to sit down. Several girls were very happy to see Wang Xinyao. This was something they had not expected. It could be said to be a surprise. Xinyao, why are you here? Are you here to do business? No. Wang Xinyao shook her head and looked at the little girls beside her. I just brought my daughters and husband here to have fun. Your daughter? Several girls were stunned and looked at the girls. The little ones looked at the girls who were talking to their mothers and greeted them politely. Hello, sisters. Several girls looked at the cute little ones and were surprised, but also loved them very much. You little guys, this is the wrong generation, call me auntie. Chapter 143 Riding a Pony. Wang Xinyao wiped the sweat off her forehead helplessly and hurried to correct the little girls' titles. It's okay, Xinyao. If you call me auntie, it will make us all sound old. It's better to call me sister. Several girls covered their mouths and giggled, and it seemed that they were very satisfied that the little girls called them sisters. Then there is a generation gap between us. Isn't this taking advantage of you? Wang Xinyao said with a smile, but several girls waved their hands. What kind of talk is that? Forget about it. Let's just talk about our own affairs, okay? At this time, the former college sisters gathered together. Several girls looked at Yi Xian, but they felt the same indescribable shock as Gao Meng just now. After all, Yi Xian is so outstanding in both appearance and temperament that he can be said to be extraordinary. By the way, let me introduce you, this is my husband Yi Xian. Hello, Mr. Yi. Haha, hello. As they talked, everyone got to know each other, but a few girls were still wondering in their hearts and looked at Yi Xian from time to time. In addition to being surprised, several girls came close to Wang Xinyao's ear and whispered, Xinyao, you are so lucky, how did you meet such a husband? Yes, Xinyao, I'm so jealous now. Your husband is so charming and handsome. Xinyao, please don't hide it. Tell us how you found a husband like this. Wang Xinyao blushed when the girls teased her and said to them unhappily, How would I know? You might as well study it yourself instead of asking me. This isn't a unified document. Look at you, Xinyao. Your child is already that big, and you're an old married couple. Why are you still blushing? One of the girls rubbed Wang Xinyao's cheek and couldn't help laughing out loud. While joking, Cao Meng also took out the tea set and made tea for everyone. After playing around for a while, everyone stopped joking and started talking about their trip to Nansan. Lu Meng couldn't help but sigh and looked at Wang Xinyaо seriously. Xinyao, what are you doing? How can you travel to a place like this? It's a mess here. Most people who come here are here for business. If you come here for fun, there are more choices. You just arrived, so you don't know these things. There are 4 major families above, and there are many underground leaders below. Even for us here, we are walking on thin ice every day. It is really unsafe for you to travel here. Seeing Yi Meng's serious look, Wang Xinyao couldn't help but frown and asked in disbelief. This is not possible? Is it that serious? Lu Meng nodded solemnly, his expression still very serious. What I said is absolutely true. Those big families sometimes collude with the leaders, such as the famous Zhangnan Group, Tianbei Group, Xing Group, etc. They are all famous leaders. If this kind of people want to eliminate their competitors, they will do it without hesitation and be very ruthless. After hearing what Lu Meng said, the other girls also showed a look of surprise and fear on their faces. But Yi Jing and the other little girls didn't listen. They ran to the side, drank a few sips of water, and then took the little black cat to play. Here, Lu Meng and others were also a little worried about Wang Xinyao and others. We only have a little break this day, and it's not easy to meet you. As they were talking, Lu Meng and others took out their business cards and handed them to Wang Xinyao. Xinyao, you must keep these business cards. If you encounter any trouble here, please contact us. We are all very powerful. Wang Xinyao looked at the business cards, took them with a smile, and nodded solemnly. It's almost time, let's go back first. Okay. Then we won't keep you here. If you encounter any problems, be sure to call me. After explaining a few things, Wang Xinyao and Yi Xian brought the little girls back to the hotel. As soon as he returned to the hotel, Yi Xian received a message from Sun Ji. His eyes turned slightly and he looked at the little guys with a smile. Girls, Daddy will take you horseback riding tomorrow, okay? Horse riding? When the little girls who were petting cats nearby heard this, they almost jumped up and laughed so hard that they couldn't stop. Okay. Wang Xinyao was listening on the side and looked at Yi Xian curiously. Honey, where are we going to ride horses? At this time, Wang Xinyao had more considerations. After all, she had heard Lu Meng and others say before that this was not a safe place to go for a stroll. Well, it's like this, it's at the Medicinal Materials Exchange Fair, and we just happened to be there to attend it. Don't worry, I'm here, it's okay. Yi Xian also noticed the worry in Wang Xinyao's eyes. He gently rubbed Wang Xinyao's shoulders and comforted her softly. Wang Xinyao smiled and nodded. Suddenly, she felt a sense of security she had never felt before. The next day, Yi Xian and Wang Xinyao brought a few little ones and arrived at the foot of Lingshan Mountain, driven by Tang Hao. Well, the environment here is nice. Yi Xian got out of the car, looked at the surrounding environment, and nodded slightly. At the same time, Sun Ji also walked towards the side, carrying a small medicine box on his back and leading a few good horses in his hands. Master, this is the horse prepared for you. Then, Sun Ji led the horse over and handed it to Yi Xian and others. Yi Xian took the rope and looked at the few ponies inside. He was immediately happy and said with a smile. Sun Ji, you are really thoughtful. Sun Ji scratched his head and smiled, then looked at the little guys and said. I didn't have any left, but there happened to be one there, so I just took it over here. A few little guys were looking at these ponies, they were so excited that they gathered around Yi Xian and talked. Dad, you have to teach us how to ride a horse. We don't know how. Hearing this, Yi Xian smiled slightly and rubbed the little heads of the girls. Okay, Dad will teach you. Afterwards, Yi Xian took a few maids, led the ponies to the side, and began to teach them carefully. The little guys listened carefully and quickly grasped the key points. Under Yi Xian's care, although they were not very skilled, at least they knew how to ride a horse. And these ponies are very suitable for the little girls. They look petite and cute, especially compared with the big horses next to them. Yeah. We finally learned how to ride a horse. At this time, the little guys were very happy. They were immediately helped by Yi Xian to ride on the ponies. They held the reins tightly with their little hands, ready to head up the mountain. Xiniao, come up. Yi Xian also mounted a handsome white horse next to him, then leaned over and stretched out his hand towards Wang Xiniao. Wang Xiniao's pretty face blushed. She took Yi Xian's hand and sat on him, holding Yi Xian's waist tightly. Afterwards, everyone didn't waste any more time and headed towards the trade fair together. Sun Ji was also riding a horse, walking beside Yi Xian, and speaking to Yi Xian for instructions. Master, it's like this. I'm still short of a lot of old medicines, so I'd like to exchange some Qingling potions for them. What do you think? It's okay. Just do whatever you want. Yi Xian smiled and nodded. This didn't matter. Then, everyone sat on the horses, talking as they walked towards the top in a mighty manner. As the view gradually widened, everyone saw a huge platform, a wide platform built with white marble tiles. Arrive! Looking at the scenery ahead, Sun Ji smiled and nodded. Well, let's all come down. Yi Xian pondered for a moment, got off the horse first, and then carefully pulled Wang Xiniao down. Master, I'll go set up the stall first. You can go shopping with my wife and sisters first. Sun Ji patted his small medicine box and said to Yi Xian. Okay. Go ahead. Accompanying a few maids, Yi Xian and others separated from Sun Ji and walked inside together. Sun Ji found a piece of vacant space and set up his stall. This medicinal material exchange fair was extremely lively, with many Chinese people coming to exchange medicinal materials, and among them there were also many people from various countries who came here because of its reputation. Wow! It's so lively here. A few little girls pouted and spoke in baby voices. But at this moment, a noisy sound was heard not far away. Many people pricked up their ears and looked to the other side, and saw two young men walking side by side towards this side. Who are these two people? They seem too arrogant. I'm afraid it's not just arrogance. With this kind of temperament, it seems that he is not an ordinary person. TSK, this is the eldest young master of the Amba family. At this time, most people recognized the young man from the Amba family, but some people did not recognize the other young man next to him. Hey, I know this young master of the Amba family, but who is this person next to him? How can he walk side by side with him? Yeah, this doesn't look simple. Does anyone know who this is? Oh. That's Li Yanji. At this time, a middle-aged Chinese man recognized it at a glance. Li Yanji. Who is this? Those people were still a little confused and asked again. No way, you don't know him. The middle-aged man was somewhat surprised, and then explained helplessly. This is Li Yanji, the third young master of the Li family, one of the 8 great families in China. This Li family is the leader of the entire Chinese pharmaceutical industry. It can be said that they occupy half of the country. The resources of the Li family are beyond our imagination. They are the real pharmaceutical giants with a prominent family background and extensive network of contacts. Hearing this, people were also shocked, and the corners of their mouths couldn't help but twitch. At this point in the situation, even the dumbest person can smell that there is something else going on. The fact that these two people walked together and came to this medicinal material exchange meeting together already represents a certain message. OMG. Thinking of this, people couldn't help but gasp, their eyes trembling, and they were suddenly in an uproar. Many people were already shocked by the extraordinary strength of these two families, but now they see that the two families have come together. What is this? Are you asking for cooperation? We are already strong enough as a family, but if we cooperate, it's unbelievable. Doesn't this mean we are monopolizing it? For a moment, everyone's heart trembled, and then they looked at the two people coming towards them and came forward. At this time, people, with fawning smiles on their faces, fawned on the two of them respectfully and enthusiastically. Isn't this the eldest young master of the Amba family? And the third young master Li? Hello, young masters. The two young masters are our role models. Yes, you two are the best in the medical field. We just look up to you. It's hard for us to imagine your height and stature. It is our honor to be able to participate in this medicinal material exchange meeting with the two young masters. In the blink of an eye, the crowd gathered around the two of them, trying to fawn on them as much as they wanted. But this is normal, these people are not fools. If the Amba family and the Li family cooperate together, I am afraid that their status as the medical hegemon in this entire area will be unshakable. Li Yanji and the other two were enjoying the feeling of being the center of attention, and they were also feeling very proud. But then, Li Yanji looked to the other side, and his eyes suddenly narrowed. Chapter 144 Beautiful Blood Mist. Suddenly, although there were people coming and going around, Li Yanji still saw Yi Xian and others here at a glance, and also caught a glimpse of Sun Ji, who was setting up a stall on the other side. In an instant, Li Yanji's eyes, which had been calm but somewhat complacent, suddenly became excited, and at this moment were trembling with an indescribable light. Afterwards, Li Yanji looked at Amba Xan, the eldest son of the Amba family, beside him, and a strange smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. After Yi Xian and others left to the other side, the two of them walked towards the stall where Sun Ji was, staring at the things on the stall. There were no medicinal herbs at Sun Ji's stall, only neatly arranged bottles of Qingling potions, which were used to exchange for high-year-old medicinal herbs. The two of them were looking at these refreshing potions at this time. There was a sign next to them, which clearly stated that this bottle of potion needed to be exchanged for an old medicine that was hundreds or even thousands of years old. This made Ambaxen's mouth twitch suddenly, and he was extremely surprised. You know, these hundreds of years old medicines are rare treasures, and they are something you may not be able to get even if you have money. Not to mention that it is a hundreds-year-old medicinal material. As long as the quality and efficacy are guaranteed, this thing is even more valuable than gold. Because the growth of medicinal materials is extremely demanding, those that can reach 100 years old are already rare. Ambasen still remembers that at a previous auction, tangerine peel that was 30 years old was sold for nearly 200,000 per pound. So no matter what, Ambaxen couldn't believe that the potion in front of him could be so valuable. An old medicinal herb can only be exchanged for one bottle. Isn't this crazy? What the hell is this? How dare they price it like this? And Bashin looked at Sun Ji in surprise and couldn't help but ask. What on earth is this potion of yours? What is its effect? It actually requires such a rare old medicinal herb to be exchanged. Sun Ji looked up at Bashin, then smiled politely and introduced him slowly. This medicine is called Qingling Potion. It can alleviate or even cure most diseases in the human body. Not only that, it can also improve the body's constitution and enhance various body functions. Of course, these are all permanent, and I can also guarantee that there are no side effects. Listening to Sun Ji's introduction, Ambasen couldn't help but tremble in his heart. If this medicine is really as Sun Ji said, then it is a real miracle medicine. How about this, you name a price. I'm just curious if this is real and I want to try one out. As for the price, it's up to you. How about that? Although Bashin was a little skeptical, he thought that since Sun Ji dared to set up a stall openly in such an occasion, it was likely to be true. But he couldn't afford such century-old medicinal herbs at the moment, so he had to see if he could buy them with money. Sorry, we don't have the century-old medicine, so this one won't be exchanged. But Sun Ji was not impressed and still insisted on needing the century-old medicinal herbs. Li Yanji next to him turned his eyes, raised a smile at the corner of his mouth, looked at Sun Ji and said, "Why don't you give us a taste first? We want to know the efficacy of the medicine." Sun Ji looked at Li Yanji, his eyes unconsciously fixed, but he didn't say much, just nodded slightly. After all, this is indeed the truth. We must let others know the benefits of the medicine so that they will be willing to take out the herbs in exchange. All right. Sun Ji agreed, then took out a potion and dripped a drop into each of their hands. The two drank the potion without hesitation, and instantly their whole bodies froze. At this moment, Ambasen felt that his body had become extremely light, and a sense of comfort filled his lungs. Now he realized how miraculous this potion was. He felt that his ears and eyes became clearer and his mind became clearer too. This was a feeling he had never had before, as if he had been reborn from the ashes. At this moment he no longer had any doubts that this was definitely a good medicine, and it was a good medicine that was enough to shock the whole world. Li Yanji felt the same way, but he didn't seem that surprised. After all, he knew about this potion before. How is it? How is this potion? Li Yanji then pulled Bashin aside and asked him with a smile. This is absolutely a great medicine. It's amazing. Ambasan was indescribably excited at this moment. He had been dealing with medicinal herbs since he was a child, but this was the first time he encountered such a medicine. While speaking of his feelings, Ambasan also looked at other potions on a stall not far away, his eyes filled with naked desire. This is just the effect of one drop. If it were a whole bottle, wouldn't it be so powerful? Mr. Li, do you know this potion? Excited, looking at Li Yanji's actions, and Bashin immediately asked a question. He could be considered a shrewd man, and of course he saw that there was something wrong with Li Yanji's behavior. Young Masterin, tell me the truth. I have discussed cooperation with them before, so I know this potion. Cooperate. Ambasan frowned immediately, looked at Li Yanji in disbelief, and asked impatiently. And then, did you fail to cooperate successfully? Yes. Li Yanji nodded and said helplessly. Young Masterin, you don't know this. Not only did they refuse to cooperate with me, they also spoke very harshly, saying that someone like me was not worthy of cooperating with them, and then they directly kicked me out. Sun Ji and Yi Xian are so arrogant. They think they developed this medicine and look down on everyone. They didn't even look at me straight in the eye at that time. Besides, they said that they will be the leaders in the medical field in the future, and we are nothing. Li Yanji's remarks were an exaggeration and had distorted the facts to a large extent. However, Ambasan's eyes narrowed slightly at this time. He was not a fool. He naturally knew that it was Li Yanji who was fanning the flames, so he did not say anything. Young Masterin, if they can really achieve mass production and global sales of this drug, they will be the leaders of the pharmaceutical industry in the future. Of course, I believe this is not what our two families want to see. Letting these two clowns be so arrogant. No matter who it would make anyone feel uncomfortable. But if this potion can be controlled by you and me, the profits it can generate will be at least trillions, and at most unimaginable. Out there in the South Three Lands, we have your Shao family, and the Chinese market has our Li family, so it can be easily opened. In this way, as long as we get the medicine, our two families can get together, then. Li Yanji's words were very clear. Ambasan also knew the power of this potion and had some thoughts in his mind. Let's find a secluded place, talk to my old man about this matter, and then make plans. After thinking for a moment, and Bashin still felt that he should ask the old man about such an important matter. Okay. I'll listen to you, Masterin. Li Yanji smiled and nodded, and the two of them found a secluded place. And Bashin then took out his cell phone and called the old man to explain the matter. Who are these two people? Do you know their background? After hesitating for a moment, the old man on the other end of the phone asked about the identities of Yi Xian and the others in a serious tone. Mr. This Sun Ji was just a doctor. If he dies, he's dead. He was his master. It might be difficult to deal with him. When Li Yanji talked about Yi Xian, there was obviously still some fear in his tone. Ahem. It's okay, just tell me straight. Mr. coughed softly and continued to ask calmly. Okay, Mr. Sun Ji's master is Yi Xian, a dragon general of the Yanhuang army. Dragon general. After these words were spoken, Amba Xian and the old man of the Amba family, Amba Yangja, were both stunned. They had never thought that Yi Xian actually had such an identity. At this time, the two of them couldn't help but feel suspicious. They should think twice before provoking such a person. Well, but the Amba family is one of the four major families in the entire South Three Lands. It shouldn't be a problem to wipe out a person silently. Of course, Li Yanji also noticed the worries in the two people's hearts at this time, and quickly gave them a shot of reassurance. Besides, even if there are problems at that time, they don't have any solid evidence, so we can just shirk responsibility. At that time, we already had a prescription. We were so wealthy that we could rival a country. It's unimaginable. In the face of such absolute wealth and strength, who else dares to touch us? When Mr. Anan and Bashin heard this, they nodded slightly. This was indeed the truth. They knew very well that this was a big gamble. But if they win the bet, their Amba family will no longer just huddle in this small place of Nansan, but will overlook the entire world. By the way, is the effect of this potion really the same as you said? Old man Amba Yangja on the other end of the phone was already interested at this time and finally asked about the medicine. Old man, this medicine is indeed a good medicine. We have all tried it. The effect of just one drop is extraordinary. Ambasan grinned and said confidently. That's good, I got it. Amba Yangja agreed softly upon hearing this, and already had a plan in mind. At the same time, Yi Xian and Wang Xinya were strolling around the medicinal materials exchange fair with a few little ones. The number of people attending this medicinal material exchange meeting has not decreased, but has increased. Many people were setting up stalls at this time, exchanging the medicinal materials they needed. It was bustling and lively. "Dad, what is this?" At this time, Yi Shi looked at a pool of black granular matter on a stall, pulled Yi Xian's clothes, and asked curiously. "Well, this is night shining sand." Yi Xian turned around and took a look, then he smiled and started introducing them with a smile. "This is a good thing. According to medical books, this is a good thing that can cure blindness, malaria, clear away heat and detoxify, and disperse blood stasis." "How amazing." Several little girls were a little surprised when they looked at this black thing. It looked unremarkable, but it had such a function. "Well, it's amazing, but do you know what this thing is?" Yi Xian smiled slightly, bent down and asked the little girls. "I don't know, it looks like a small stone." Yi Yin bit her fingers and muttered, while the other girls rubbed their heads and didn't understand what this thing was. This thing, although everyone calls it night shining sand, is actually batshit. Ha! Hearing Yi Xian say this, the little girls immediately frowned, exclaimed, and stuck out their tongues. "Okay, let's not worry about that. Dad will introduce you to something else interesting." Yi Xian smiled slightly, pulled a few little girls and continued to walk forward, looking at a medicinal herb in the stall in front that looked like corn with red granular seeds and said, "Look, this thing is called Aracema. Although it looks like pomegranate and corn, it is actually a medicinal herb. This thing can be used internally to clear away heat and resolve phlegm, and treat diseases such as epilepsy and hemiplegia. It can also be used externally to treat redness and swelling after being bitten by snakes or insects." As the little girls walked, Yi Xian happily introduced some medicinal materials and their effects, but the little girls showed no interest. "Dad, we are so sleepy." Yi Shi pouted her lips and threw herself into Yi Xian's arms listlessly. It seemed that the novelty of this medicinal material exchange meeting had worn off, and now she just felt bored. "Dad, we want to go back. It's so boring here." Yi Jing also pursed her lips. She was really not interested in things like Chinese medicine. Yi Xian was helpless as he saw the bored looks on these girls' faces. "Okay, let's go say hello and then head down the mountain." "Hey!" "Okay." When the maids heard that they were leaving, they immediately became excited. Yi Xian sighed helplessly and had to prepare to say hello to Sun Ji first, and then take a few little girls downstairs. I also took the opportunity to see if Sun Ji had found any medicinal herbs. After all, the herbs he wanted were quite demanding. As for Sun Ji's side, the business could be described as bustling with people. Many people gathered in front of his stall, looking at these medicines with great interest. Many people have tried this medicine. Even though it was just one drop, the effect astounded them. Knowing that this was a rare and invaluable medicine, they were all willing to pay for it. "This is a good medicine. Boss, name a price and I'll take 2. "Boss, I want 1 too." "You can name your price." "That's not a problem." "Oh, I can't miss this." "Boss, I'll pay you 1 million. "Can you give me 1 million. "What the hell do you want?" "Boss, I'll give you 1.5 million. At this time, people were all excited and bidding high. They were literally drooling over the refreshing potion. "Excuse me everyone, the plaque next to me has it clearly written here, all we need is old medicine to exchange." Sun Ji was still very determined and did not need anything else in exchange. The people who had made bids just now were all frustrated. But they all knew in their hearts that anyone who could develop such a medicine would most likely not be short of money. "How about this? I have a family medical book called The Book of Wild Medicinal Herbs. It's a genuine good thing with a lot of prescriptions and herbs. I'll give it to you in exchange for 2 bottles of your medicine. How about that?" "Boss, take a look at this. I bought this set of silver needles from an old herbalist. They are thousands of years old and have exquisite craftsmanship. Can they be exchanged for a potion?" Because there were no medicinal herbs that Sun Ji needed, people took out a lot of other things in the hope of exchanging them for this medicine. But Sun Ji remained firm, waved his hand and said apologetically, "Everyone, I'm sorry, I don't need anything else, I just need the old medicinal herbs." These words were like a bucket of cold water, directly extinguishing the fire in everyone's hearts. Everyone felt frustrated for a moment and left in a huff, all with unhappy expressions on their faces. They proposed many methods of exchange, but they were all rejected by Sun Ji, which made them feel uncomfortable. This guy is really stubborn. What the hell is wrong with him? Yeah, if he doesn't exchange anything, who can get what he wants? Humph. The man is innocent, but he is guilty of possessing a treasure. Just wait. As people walked away, they talked angrily, with a lot of anger in their hearts. For a moment, many people were eyeing Sun Ji's stall with eager eyes, and they already had some other ideas. Afterwards, Yi Xian brought a few little girls back to Sun Ji's stall, looked at Sun Ji's worried face, and said with a smile, "You didn't find any at all." Well. Sun Ji sighed, feeling helpless. He had made it clear that only old medicinal herbs were needed, but these people seemed not to understand, which made him speechless. But at this moment when he was sighing, Sun Ji suddenly remembered something and looked up at Yi Xian seriously. "What's wrong?" Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and immediately realized what Sun Ji wanted to say, so he leaned down and winked at Sun Ji. Li Yanji came here just now, and brought a local with him. He clearly came here for this potion. Li Yanji also came over and told Yi Xian about this matter in his ear. But I don't know why he left later. I feel like there might be something wrong. Maybe he has some evil intentions. Upon hearing this, Yi Xian couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then he shook his head and looked at Tang Hao next to him. Tang Hao quickly understood and nodded slightly. Seeing that the little guy was also sleepy, Yi Xian squatted down and said to the little girls with a smile, "Girls, you guys go back first, Daddy will stay here for a while." Good. Afterwards, Yi Xian walked to Wang Xinyao and gave her a few instructions. After waiting for a while, another young man came over and respectfully approached Wang Xinyao and several little girls. "Sister-in-law, little sisters, let me take you back." The little guys looked at the young man walking in front of them, yawned, and then pulled Wang Xinyao down the mountain together. "I had a donkey that I never rode. One day, I suddenly felt like riding it to go to the market. On the mountain road, a few little guys rode their ponies down the mountain, humming songs all the way, feeling the oncoming mountain breeze, and they felt much more energetic than before. But not far behind them, several figures flashed and quickly caught up with them. Are they the ones? One of the men in black stared at the backs of Wang Xinyao and others and a few little guys, with a hint of cruelty flashing in his eyes. Yes, that's them, they are that guy's family. Okay, then we'll follow and catch them. At this time, these people were looking at Wang Xinyao and others in front of them and were ready at any time. They are almost out of the mountain. There are fewer people in this area. Why don't we take action? Good. The middle-aged man in the lead had a cold light in his eyes and nodded slightly. However, just as they drew the daggers from their waists and were about to attack, a girl suddenly walked up to them. The girl is wearing a white dress, which is exquisite, capable, beautiful, and has an excellent temperament. It was none other than Bai Ling, but unlike her previous warm and playful appearance, her face was now cold and full of murderous intent. Bai Ling held a long and sharp tang sword in her hand, which was flashing with a cold light. Who are you? Just as these people were about to speak, they saw the tang sword in Bai Ling's hand swinging at them at an incredible speed. In an instant, these people only saw a flash of cold light in front of their eyes and closed their eyes reflexively. In just a breath, Bai Ling had put away her tang sword and walked aside as if nothing had happened. Puff! At this moment, traces of blood splashed into the air, instantly forming a beautiful blood mist. Chapter 145 Who Dares? When they opened their eyes again, they felt dizzy. Through the blood mist, they only saw the headless corpses still standing there. How is this possible? The middle-aged man in the lead's pupils contracted violently, and he murmured in disbelief, but soon, he could no longer speak. Bang! Suddenly, several people's heads fell to the ground, and blood splattered on the surrounding green grass. The eyes of several people quickly lost their color, and those eyes that were wide open in disbelief contained regret, reluctance, and confusion. At the same time, on the platform at the top of the mountain, Yi Xian, Sun Ji, and Tang Hao were standing together. Not far away, many people were still gathering around Li Yanji and in Baxin like stars surrounding the moon. Amidst the huge crowd following them, the two men walked towards Yi Xian and Sun Ji with firm steps and cold eyes. The people around were all confused when they saw this scene, but they always felt that something was going to happen. Sure enough, and Baxin walked up to Sun Ji at this time, glared at Sun Ji fiercely, and asked with a reproachful look on his face, "Where did you get your medicine?" Sun Ji frowned, thinking that this person was not friendly. "I developed this." "What's wrong?" "Ha ha ha, you farted." But Bashin sneered, his tone full of disdain. This is clearly our Amba family's prescription, but it was stolen many years ago. Although we don't know if it was you, now that you have this prescription, we have reason to believe that you stole it. Having said that, Bashin changed the subject and glanced at Yi Xian standing beside him. Of course, if you hand over the prescription, we can forgive you for what you did, but if you are shameless, don't blame us for being rude. Boom! Suddenly, these words made the people around them terrified. So this belongs to the Amba family. It looks like something big is going to happen. These Chinese are in danger. I don't quite understand. Since they stole the prescription, who gave them the courage to come to this place in Nansan? Many foreigners began to whisper at this time. One of the local youths also looked enlightened and said, slapping his head, I'm just saying, how could a Chinese person possibly have such a good medicine? Yes, I just tasted it. This medicine is an unprecedented treasure. After all this time, it turns out that these Chinese people are thieves who came to steal the prescription. As everyone was talking, they unconsciously moved a little further away. They knew very well what the Amba family was doing. I said it at the beginning, the people of the southern three lands are just a bunch of barbarians. Yi Xian listened to Bashin's words and the whispers of the people around him, and suddenly laughed out loud. While looking at the two of them, Yi Xian shook his head helplessly, then his eyes turned stern and he looked at Li Yanji. Are you sure you want to do this? Is this what your family told you to do? Yi Xian's eyes flashed with an icy cold light, which made Li Yanji's hair stand on end. He panicked and his back was wet with cold sweat. Looking at Yi Xian's eyes at this moment, Li Yanji was indescribably shocked. After all, this was the southern three kingdoms, not China. Even if Yi Xian is a dragon general, can he still allow the Yanhuan army to enter the southern three areas? This is really ridiculous. This is still the territory of the four great families. How could Yi Xian act rashly? Thinking of this, Li Yanji's body trembled, and from the fear just now, he became fearless again in an instant. Since you are an upright dragon general, please hand over the prescription immediately. This will benefit us all. I hope you can be more sensible. Yi Xian chuckled again and looked at Li Yanji with amusement, without any fear at all. Hee, what if I don't hand it in? After hearing this cry, Li Yanji and Bashin on the opposite side suddenly looked cold. Superior. Ambaxin waved his hand slightly, and then several teams of people came up from behind and surrounded the place tightly. Yi Xian was still fearless. He looked at the people around him without any expression on his face, as if he was looking at a group of mob. In an instant, Tang Hao took a sudden step forward and stared at these people with an extremely cold look in his eyes. At this moment, the situation on the field was tense. Li Yanji and Bashin looked at each other and burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. What a joke. You only have one subordinate? You want to resist so many of us? What a foolish dream. Ambaxin couldn't stop laughing, and the look he gave Yi Xian was as if he was looking at a fool. Originally, from what he heard from Li Yanji, he thought that Yi Xian, as the dragon general, was also a big shot after all, and he thought he would be difficult to deal with. But now looking at it, this is not a trouble at all, it's just like being a fool. The people around were sighing when they saw this situation, and they had already sentenced Yi Xian and his companions to death in their hearts. Where on earth are these guys from? They are so smart. They are so stubborn. That's right, looking at the situation, you might as well give in sooner rather than later. Why are you pretending? They don't know the methods of the Amba family. It has long been rumored that the Amba family has connections with several underground leaders. In my opinion, these people won't be able to get out today. I've said it before, a man is innocent, but guilty of possessing a treasure. What do you mean by courting death? This is courting death. For a moment, everyone lost hope in Yi Xian and the others, and stood aside, waiting to watch the fun. Those men of Ambaxin who surrounded them were now staring at Yi Xian and his companions with fierce eyes, and their expressions were as ferocious as they could be. But what everyone didn't expect was that Yi Xian and Sun Ji seemed to turn a blind eye and sat down next to the stall together, casually opened a bottle of medicine, and drank it leisurely. Tang Hao, is everything okay? Yi Xian drank and looked at Tang Hao with a smile. Crack, crack. Tang Hao had a confident look on his face. He twisted his neck casually, making a clicking sound, and looked at the guys in front of him indifferently. Brother Yi, don't worry. Patting his chest, Tang Hao slowly took off his coat, and in front of everyone, he casually moved his hands and feet and said in a cold voice. I haven't fought for a long time, so I'll practice on you today. I'm getting a little rusty, so if you don't die in one go, just bear with it. Boom. At this moment, hearing Tang Hao's arrogant words, everyone was dumbfounded and stunned. Crazy. Crazy to the extreme. It's really crazy beyond measure. On the other hand, Yi Xian and the other two who were sitting beside them had a carefree look on their faces, not caring at all about the thugs surrounding them. And Baxin couldn't help but twitching the corners of his mouth. He had never seen such a crazy guy in his life. Because no matter what, this is not facing one or two people, this is facing almost countless times more people, and Baxin can't figure it out. Is this really fearless? Or is it simply that he can't see the situation clearly? Come on, everyone! Following Baxin's order, the men around him roared and instantly rushed towards Tang Hao like a stream of water. Go to hell! One of the guys was quick and threw a heavy punch at Tang Hao's face. But at this time, Tang Hao raised a sneer, blocked the guy's upcoming punch with one hand, and then hit the guy's face with a fierce hand knife. Crack! Suddenly, there was a loud bang in this guy's skull, and his entire head was beaten limp into a puddle of mud. The poor guy didn't even have time to utter a groan before he was already dead. This overwhelming sense of power immediately made the other men who were coming forward pause, with incredible looks flashing in their eyes. This. When Baxin, who was standing by, saw the scene, his eyelids twitched wildly. With such strength and speed, is this still a human being? Don't do it alone. Come on, all of you. Then, Baxin shouted to his men, which made the men who had been suppressed just now react. They looked at each other, roared, and all attacked Tang Hao. The scene just now made them dare not be negligent. They took out all the weapons they could, including machetes, daggers, steel rods, and everything else. But Tang Hao still had a look of disdain on his face. Looking at these stragglers, he actually rushed towards them in the opposite direction. After that, Tang Hao galloped among the crowd alone, just like a god of death. With every move, the surroundings were either the sound of breaking bones or bursts of miserable screams. None of Baxin's men could defeat Tang Hao in one move, so Tang Hao could be said to be killing people indiscriminately. But once he made a move, he either broke the hands and feet of his men, or ended their lives easily. This is no longer a one-sided advantage, it is simply a crushing defeat like a dimensionality reduction attack. At this moment, everyone was stunned. This was an ending they could never have imagined. Oh my god, is this still human? This person actually killed all of Baxin's men by himself. Is this the mysterious power from the east? Those guys who were watching the fun were standing in the distance, all of them were stunned. Tang Hao was simply too invincible. Speaking of Baxin's men, they are all ruthless men and never hesitate in a fight. However, when they meet Tang Hao, they are like paper tigers and have no deterrent power anymore. Li Yanji and Baxin stared at each other in amazement, feeling as if they were dreaming. Even if the opponent is a master, there is no such level of existence, right? The bloody, one-sided massacre before their eyes completely washed away their worldview. At this point in time, it was no longer just these men who were besieging Tang Hao, it had become a killing feast for Tang Hao alone. Hurry up and find someone to attack those two people and control them. Li Yanji shook his head vigorously, and finally reacted, and yelled at his men beside him. When he saw that Yi Xin and Sun Ji were not moving, he made up his mind that these two people's skills were not as good as Tang Hao's, or they had no fighting ability at all. But he doesn't realize yet how ridiculous and childish his thoughts are. Yes. After these words were spoken, many people suddenly realized what was going on, and then picked up their weapons and rushed towards Yi Xian and Sun Jing. Seeing that the situation was not good, Sun Ji quickly jumped up and immediately stood in front of Yi Xian. You're just a medicine box carrier, do you still want to come and fight? Yi Xian stood up slowly, patted Sun Ji's shoulder with a smile, and then pulled him behind him. Sun Ji felt a little ashamed for a moment, his old face turned red, and he stammered. Master, Okay, just sit here. Yi Xian smiled slightly, looked at the person coming from the front, stepped on a stone, and suddenly collapsed. Puff! With a sound that pierced through flesh and blood, the fastest guy had his throat pierced by the stone in an instant. Ah! After this unfortunate guy fell down, another subordinate behind him had his face covered in red and white. He screamed and fainted from fright. Seeing this scene, everyone nearby was stunned. Their legs and feet went weak and no one dared to take another step forward. Everyone was terrified. Li Yanji and Baxin were also shocked. They didn't expect that they would encounter such a tough guy. Ambaxin swallowed his saliva, looked at Yi Xian's indifferent expression, his face darkened, and said coldly, "Mr. Yi, your wife and daughter are in my hands now. If you..." But before Ambasan could finish his words, Yi Xian had already arrived in front of Ambasan at a very fast speed, like a ghost, grabbed his neck and lifted him up. "Let me go. Do you want to die?" At this time, Anbashin was strangled by Yi Xian. He stared at Yi Xian and struggled instinctively. But no matter how he struggled, Yi Xian's hands were like iron clamps. Even if he used all his strength, he couldn't break free. "Stop. Let our young master go." In an instant, everyone's attention was drawn over here. While roaring, they took out their pistols and aimed at Yi Xian's head. At this time, Ambasan was being strangled by Yi Xian. Feeling this extremely powerful absolute force, his whole face turned red, as if he was about to suffocate. At this moment, he finally felt a sense of fear. Looking at the terrifying eyes of the man in front of him, he seemed to be really going to kill himself. "Let our young master go, or we will shoot. If you have anything to say, let's talk it over. If you kill our young master, you will never be able to leave this Nansan place. You are courting death. Put the young master down immediately, or we will not be polite." The men around were approaching with guns in their hands, but their hands holding the guns were shaking. No matter how stupid these guys are, they now realize the gap in strength between them and Yi Xian and his group. But no matter how these men threatened him, Yi Xian remained unmoved. His hands were like a pair of iron pliers, tightly pinching Ambasan's neck. At this time, Yi Xian was staring at Ambaxin's eyes as if he was staring at his prey. In this guy's eyes, which were bloodshot due to the feeling of suffocation, there was no arrogance or domineering anymore, only fear from the deepest part of his heart. "Although those ragtag groups under your command cannot break through the guards I arranged, I am a person who is good at everything except being threatened by others." As Yi Xian spoke, he continued to pinch Anbashin's hand, exerting force, causing this guy's face to turn purple. "Moreover, you are using my family to threaten me, so no matter who you are, you must die today." At this time, Ambasan had lost the ability to struggle, his tongue was about to stick out of his mouth, and his whole body was shaking uncontrollably. He regretted it now. Why did he listen to Li Yanji and provoke this madman? What he regretted most was that he was actually obsessed with hiring someone to intercept Yi Xian's family. At this point, Yi Xian didn't want to say anything more. He was ready to crush this guy to death, and the strength in his hands was getting stronger and stronger. Ambasan's face had turned purple, his hands and feet were growing weak, and there were stars in his eyes. He was about to die. However, at this critical moment, a loud noise came from one side. The person who came was none other than the underground leader entrenched in the Nansan area. At this moment, hundreds of people were walking towards this side in a mighty manner. These people are all dressed in suits. They look gentle and elegant in black suits, and are full of momentum. What is even more terrifying is that these people have guns on their shoulders, all of them are Scorpion submachine guns and Thompson submachine guns. This group of people consisted of several hundred people, with cold eyes and firm steps. They formed a dark mass, accompanied by flying dust, giving people an indescribable feeling of oppression. Wearing suits, holding guns, with joking and playful expressions, these people can simply be described as gentlemen scums and thugs in suits. The middle-aged men in the lead were even more conspicuous and stood out among the group of people. They were holding a cigar in their hands and wearing suits that were completely different from the others, but they looked much more high-end at first glance, and were wearing gold and silver. A few people had indifferent expressions as they walked in front of the hundreds of people, staring at this side with eyes as sharp as falcons. It's actually these people. Tisk, TSK, TSK. There are several underground dragon heads here. Jiangnan Group, Tianbei Group, my god. Even Xing Group and Sanlong Group are here. The onlookers were in an uproar at once, and started talking about it like boiling water. What are they doing here? One of them asked in a daze, while the people around him smiled and shook their heads. Oh, of course, they are here to protect the Amba family. Ha, I thought the situation was going to be reversed, but the Amba family is still the Amba family, one of the 4 major families in the southern 3 lands. These drug thieves look like they are in great danger. What can you do if you fight them? They are surrounded by so many people and they have weapons in their hands. Given the current situation, many people are placing their hopes on the Amba family again, waiting to see these underground leaders take action against Yi Xian and others. When Ambaxin heard the noise, he looked over with difficulty through the corner of his eye. His originally lifeless eyes became excited again. In addition, Yi Xian's strength in his hands was much loosened at this time, giving him a chance to catch his breath. When Ambaxin confirmed that these visitors were underground leaders who had connections with his family, Ambaxin finally put his mind at ease. After all, their Amba family has a lot of cooperation with these underground leaders, so it is not surprising that they come to help when encountering such things. Although he couldn't speak now, he was still waiting for Yi Xian with his eyes. He didn't believe that Yi Xian would still be fearless in the face of such a situation. He knew that if Yi Xian continued to be stubborn, he would soon be shot to pieces by these guys. Bang, bang, bang. Sure enough. The next moment, a burst of dense gunfire rang out, but strangely, Yi Xian in front of him was still intact. However, one by one, Ambaxin's men fell down like harvested straw, with blood flowers bursting from their bodies. They just groaned and reported in advance. There was a look of disbelief in these guys' eyes. Even when they were dying, they still couldn't figure out why these underground leaders would shoot at them. For a moment, everyone else was stunned. No one could understand why these underground leaders would shoot at the Amba family, with whom they had some connections, without hesitation. Li Yanji and Anbaxin were also confused. What on earth was going on? But just as everyone was staring in astonishment, several underground dragon heads walked towards Yi Xian. Godfather. When they came in front of Yi Xian, these arrogant and domineering leaders in the South 3 areas suddenly knelt on one knee and lowered their proud heads. Chapter 146 Kill Me. Boom. This scene was like a bolt of lightning suddenly descending from the sky, striking everyone present to pieces, leaving them burnt on the outside and tender on the inside. People looked at each other, not daring to breathe. They felt like they were living in a dream. All this was simply a groundless imagination. Ambaxin's eyes were dull, and at this moment he suddenly remembered a legend. The irony is that after hearing this legend, I just sneered. Rumor has it that a few years ago, these leaders were enemies of each other, and there were constant conflicts of all sizes. Everyone wanted to destroy or annex the other side. But in the following period of time, due to some unknown unexpected events, the situation suddenly became much more stable. There are also rumors that because of one person, these leaders, although they appear to be separate groups on the surface, have actually become one group. When they heard the news, they thought it was impossible, but they didn't expect it to be true. Moreover, this person was right in front of Ambaxin, strangling his throat tightly. At this point in the situation, Ambaxin was shocked beyond words. Even if he was given 10 heads, he would never have thought that it would be like this. A dragon general from China actually unified all the complicated underground leaders in these 3 southern areas. Moreover, it can make these arrogant guys bow down to Yi Xian and even call him Godfather. Get up! Yi Xian glanced at the dragon heads and said lightly. Yes, Godfather. Several dragon heads stood up only after getting Yi Xian's permission. It could be said that they were completely surrendering. Looking at Yi Xian and Ambaxin, several leaders thought for a moment. After all, the Amba family is considered a big force in the southern 3 areas. I am the heir of the Amba family. If you dare to touch me, you will be against the entire Amba family. At this moment, Ambaxin used up his last bit of strength and looked with difficulty at Yi Xian, who was pinching his neck. When several dragon heads heard this, they looked at Yi Xian with a little embarrassment and said with a smile. Godfather, the Amba family is indeed powerful and can be considered a big family here. Godfather, even though Amba Xin deserves to die, he is still the heir of the Amba family. It would be a bit ill-considered to touch him like this. Considering the power of the Amba family, several leaders tried to persuade them a little, but they were also observing Yi Xian's expression. When they saw Yi Xian's cold expression, several dragon heads shuddered in their hearts, knowing that Anbaxin must have done something to completely anger Yi Xian. Several people cursed Anbaxin in their hearts. Why didn't you mess with anyone else? You messed with Yi Xian. But if you, Godfather, want to take action against the Amba family, we will follow you to the death. Seeing Yi Xian's attitude, no one, not even God, could save Ambaxin. Several dragon heads leaned forward slightly to express their stance. Yi Xian listened to what they said, hesitated for a moment, then sneered and said, The Amba family. Do you think a little bug like this is worthy of my fear? As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. After all, the Amba family was one of the 4 major families in the southern 3 areas. But Yi Xian described the Amba family as little bugs, which shows that he did not take them seriously at all. How bold and confident does one have to be so courageous? At this point, the way people look at Yi Xian has completely changed. But before they could come to their senses, the next moment, they saw a blood mist exploding in the air. Everyone was stunned to see Yi Xian loosen his hand and pinch Ambason's neck and then pinch Ambason's head. Puff! As Yi Xian exerted force with his hands, the guy's head was suddenly crushed by a powerful force. Red and white splashed all around, including on Li Yanji. Ah! Li Yanji screamed immediately, feeling something warm and slightly fishy on his face. He was completely terrified. He was so frightened that he collapsed to the ground. He felt as if his legs had ceased to exist, his whole body was covered with hair standing on end, and his eyes were filled with despair. Since Amba Xian is already dead, it means he will be the next. Thinking of this, Li Yanji's face turned pale like a dead person, and his breathing froze. He was afraid that Yi Xian's eyes, as sharp as a knife, would fall on him at any time. At the same time, Tang Hao had also dealt with the other men, and walked over here, holding his coat in one hand and rubbing his shoulder with the other. I haven't been active for a long time, it's so refreshing. Tang Hao sighed, his voice without a trace of emotion. When others heard it, they felt a chill all the way down their scalp and spine. What kind of person could have such a calm look in his eyes after killing so many people? Is this Tang Hao from hell? Oh my god. I never thought that the Amba family would be the last to fall. Too fierce, who on earth is this person? He is simply a demon from hell. He killed so many people without batting an eyelid, and his methods were so clean and efficient. He is simply not human. While people were still talking in surprise, Tang Hao walked up to Yi Xian, glanced at Li Yanji who was lying on the side, and continued. Brother Yi, look at the Amba family, how should we deal with it? Yi Xian's face was cold, and without any hesitation, he looked at Tang Hao beside him. Kill. This simple word made the people standing by tremble. It was like the whisper of a devil, ruthless and bloodthirsty. Okay. Long Jun and his men are already here. Brother Yi, what do you think of the time? Hearing this, Yi Xian raised his wrist, glanced at his watch, and said lightly. About half an hour, we can get there. Okay, Brother Yi. Tang Hao nodded seriously, took out his cell phone and sent a message. Yi Xian turned around and glanced at Li Yanji who was still lying on the ground, his eyes revealing disgust. Tang Hao, crush all his bones for me, leaving only a breath, and send him to the Li family in China. I want to see how the Li family will react. Tang Hao nodded, put away his phone, and walked towards Li Yanji. When Li Yanji heard what was said just now, his already extremely pale face lost all color, his body trembled violently, he was frightened out of his wits. General Yilong, I know I was wrong, please forgive me. I didn't mean to do that. I was just possessed by a ghost for a moment. I won't dare to do it again. Li Yanji quickly got up and knelt in front of Yi Xian, kowtowing and begging for mercy. But Yi Xian was too lazy to even look at him and turned to walk to the other side. Tang Hao had also rolled up his sleeves and stomped his foot down. The guy's shin bone made a crackling sound and was completely deformed and twisted. Ah! The guy let out a scream, cried out, and cursed non-stop. Mr. Yi, my Li family will never let you go. You are a coward who bullies others by taking advantage of their power. If it weren't for this place, ah! But before Tang Hao could curse a few words, another scream was heard. Tang Hao pinched his shoulder at this time and exerted force suddenly, and the sound of bones breaking was heard again. Afterwards, at the medicinal material exchange meeting on the top of the mountain, only bursts of screams could be heard. The scream was extremely miserable, like the howling of ghosts and wolves. No matter who heard it, they would feel a chill in their hearts. Looking at this bloody scene, some people even screamed and fainted from fright. Even if you have a stronger psychological endurance, your stomach will be churning and you will almost vomit. They were all scared, but Tang Hao was serious and crushed all the bones of Li Yanji inch by inch. This is simply a demon. Who on earth did the Amba family offend? I'm still shaking all over. What is the devil? This is even scarier than the devil. For a moment, no one could accept the huge impact of the amount of information. Their legs felt weak and they stood a little further away. Most of them came to participate in the medicinal materials exchange fair, but no one could have expected that something like this would happen at a medicinal materials exchange fair. Afterwards, Yi Xian was about to leave and walk forward. Those underground leaders quickly made way and followed Yi Xian. Finally, hundreds of people followed the team. After everyone got on the car, they went directly to the Amba family and soon left. The rest of the onlookers just stared blankly as they left, staring blankly at the corpses all over the ground. Gazing at this scene that was like a Jura purgatory, some of the guys who were not yet dead were still howling miserably. The cold wind blew, the birds and beasts in the mountains cried, and these guys were so scared that they collapsed on the spot. At this moment, inside the Amba family's manor, there was a grand scene with bright lights. This large manor with traditional European style is extremely dazzling in this southern area. In front of the manor, a sparkling stream flows, the grass is swaying, and there are birds singing and flowers blooming all around. Inside the manor, a small castle-like building complex stands, magnificent and extremely luxurious. However, not far from this manor, a group of figures were looking at this side, their eyes as cold as poisonous snakes. The leader among them was 8 feet tall and sturdy. His muscles burst out with tremendous power, and he wore a half-face mask on his face. The man's eyes were sharp as he looked at the manor in the distance, as if he was waiting for something. The other people were dressed similarly to the men, and each of them exuded a terrifying aura. The leading man looked at the message on his phone, then put it away and glanced at the people around him. 30 minutes. After saying this, everyone began to adjust the watches on their wrists, then took their weapons and headed straight for the Amba family's manor. Chapter 147. What kind of power is this? No hesitation, no chatter, no retreat, just charge forward head-on. At the same time, in the meeting room of the Amba family's headquarters, Amba Yangja was holding a small meeting with several core members of the family. This meeting revolved around the Qingling potion, and they were considering the benefits that could be generated after obtaining the prescription. Everyone, I believe everyone understands. Amba Yangja looked at everyone with an air of maturity and spoke slowly. Everyone nodded heavily, and there was still shock in their eyes. After all, if this medicine can really be developed, the profits they can get will be huge. It is incalculable. It is rich enough to rival a country. In this way, their Amba family will stand out from the 4 major families in the southern 3 areas and firmly sit in the position of the first family. Even at that time, even if they look at the whole world, they can compete for the position of the first family. At that time, their family would be able to sell this medicine at a sky-high price and completely monopolize the entire world's medical industry. Just develop some derivative products based on this Qingling potion, and no matter whether they are useful or not, they will be worshipped as gods by people all over the world. Thinking of this, the core members of the Amba family could no longer conceal their excitement, and a smile appeared on the corners of their mouths, as if they had already witnessed the grand occasion at that time. Ahem. Old man, can we really guarantee that we can get this prescription? One of the senior executives coughed twice softly, and in addition to being delighted, he also asked about the prescription. Well, that should be fine. Amba Yangja nodded, looked out the window with his old eyes, and muttered to himself. By now, it should be about the same. Bang, bang, bang. However, at this moment, a burst of gunfire suddenly came from outside. Everyone in the conference room's faces changed drastically and they suddenly became nervous. Enemy attack. Enemy. One of the guards outside shouted, but before he could finish his words, a flower of blood burst out from between his eyebrows, and a flying knife pierced through him directly. With a thump, the guard fell to the ground, deader than dead. In the entire manor, all the guards were on high alert at this time, rushing outside with weapons in hand. However, these armed guards could only see dark shadows moving around, accompanied by gunshots and flames. At this time, the guards aimed at these dark shadows. The gunshots were extremely rapid, and their hands holding the triggers were trembling. They had no idea where to shoot. For a moment, the manor was filled with flames. It must be said that the firepower of these guards was quite powerful. But the next moment, these armed guards were pierced through the forehead by flying knives and died instantly. Next, flying knives continued to be thrown, ruthlessly harvesting the lives of these guards and other tribesmen. Bang, bang, bang. Afterwards, some dark shadows picked up the guards' guns and started shooting. However, unlike the guards, every time these dark shadows pulled the trigger, they would take a life, sometimes even 2. Oh my God. This is the devil. It's Satan. Who is this person? Is he a human? Help! I surrender, I surrender. After a while, these guards could no longer resist. The despair in their hearts had already reached their throats. They threw down their weapons one after another and knelt on the ground begging for mercy. Because they found that, let alone hitting these shadows, they couldn't even see the movements of these shadows clearly. They were like ghosts, moving around in the manor, ruthlessly harvesting lives. But even if these people laid down their weapons, the dark shadows would still not show mercy and the killing would still continue. I don't know how long the killing lasted, but at this moment, the ground around the manor was filled with corpses. These people died in a miserable way, either their heads were blown up by bullets or their souls were taken away by flying knives. At this time, the blood had dyed the ground red, and broken limbs were everywhere. The dark shadows have completely wiped out these guards at this time, leaving not a single one alive. But that is not all, the dark shadows rushed inside again and soon arrived at the main hall. At this moment, Amba Yangja's face turned pale as he looked at the executioners in front of him who were wearing half-face masks and had expressionless faces. Who are you? Why are you trying to kill me? As Amba Yangja was speaking, he smelled the strong smell of blood on these people. He immediately felt his stomach churning and almost vomited. Whoever hired you, I'll pay you twice as much. No, no, no. I'll pay you 3 times as much. Immediately afterwards, Amba Yangja's legs went weak and he collapsed to the ground, hoping only to impress these people with money. At the same time, he was also wondering in his mind where this came from and when did he provoke this enemy. Shut up. Sit down and wait. The man who was in the lead looked at Amba Yangja with cold eyes and shouted at him mercilessly. Okay. Don't kill me. Amba Yangja shuddered again. Seeing that all these people were extremely cold and stern, he had no chance to say anything. He could only sit aside obediently. At this time, Amba Yangja and the core members of these families were all very nervous, their heartbeats accelerated rapidly, as if they were about to jump out. Not long after, outside the manor, a group of vehicles stopped at the door. Many of the leaders' men got out of the cars in a hurry, not daring to delay too much. Afterwards, several leaders quickly ran to the car where Yi Xian was and personally welcomed Yi Xian out of the car. Godfather, we're here. Yi Xian nodded and looked at the manor with a sneer in his eyes. Good. Yi Xian agreed and then walked inside on his own. Several dragon heads wiped their sweat, followed, walked to Yi Xian's side, and spoke with concern. Godfather, the guards here are very strong. How about we go in first to clear the area, and then you can go in later? However, Yi Xian ignored him and just walked to the door and pushed the heavy iron door. In an instant, the iron door deformed and the door lock broke instantly. To everyone, it seemed that what Yi Xian was pushing was not an iron gate, but a piece of tender tofu. Everyone took a deep breath. What kind of power was this? It was effortless to bend the iron door into this shape. If this happened to a person. Thinking of this, people became even more frightened and dared not think any further. After opening the door, everyone walked in, and what greeted them was the smell of blood and death. When I walked in, I saw that the manor was littered with corpses, broken limbs, and blood all over the ground. Smelling the blood in the air and seeing the horrifying scene, people felt uncomfortable. Even these leading bosses, who could be said to have climbed to their current positions through killing, gritted their teeth and frowned, their hearts beating wildly when they saw this scene. Sun Ji felt dizzy and his internal organs were pounding. He was about to collapse. As a medical practitioner, he had never seen such a scene. Snap. Snap. Yi Xian didn't care about the corpses at all. He stepped on the blood and walked slowly inside. His shoes made a clacking sound. He walked straight into the inner hall without looking around, and only then did he stop. Brother Yi. You are here. Long Jun and others stood in the inner hall, watched Yi Xian walk in, and then greeted him respectfully. However, Amba Yangja looked at Yi Xian with his eyelids twitching wildly. It could be seen that these people listened to Yi Xian, so he asked immediately. Who are you? Amba Yangja looked at Yi Xian, but no matter how hard he looked, he couldn't remember that he knew this person. Ha ha ha. You want to steal my things, but you don't know who I am. Yi Xian looked at the innocent expression of the old man Amba Yangja and burst into laughter. It's you. Amba Yangja understood it in an instant, then swallowed his saliva, his face turned pale, and he began to beg for mercy. I am blind and ignorant. This is all a misunderstanding. Please be magnanimous and forgive me this time. That was a misunderstanding. I was also bewitched by others. If you spare my life, I will give you as much money as you want, and you can do whatever you want. Yi Xian looked at Amba Yangja's pitiful appearance and immediately burst into laughter. Then his eyes suddenly became fierce and he said in a cold voice. Is this your last words? Amba Yangja was stunned when he heard the voice. Feeling the murderous intent released by Yi Xian, he asked in disbelief. You really dared to kill me? Wait. Where's Amba Xin? At this moment, Amba Yangja shuddered all over and suddenly remembered what happened to Amba Xin. They are all dead, and the guards, all dead. Several dragon heads on the side looked at Amba Yangja expressionlessly and spoke without any emotion. Chapter 148. They definitely don't care. Upon hearing this, Amba Yangja was stunned, his eyes trembling, with helplessness and resentment in his eyes. At that moment, he looked at Yi Xian resolutely, gnashing his teeth in hatred and said, "If you kill me, you won't be able to leave this Nansan land. The high-ranking officials in Nansan land will never let you go no matter what." Yi Xian looked at Amba Yangja, and when he heard this, he couldn't help but sneer and said with disdain, "If they dared to come, they would have come long ago. Why do they have to wait until now?" This. Amba Yangja's heart skipped a beat, and he suddenly had an ominous premonition. At this moment, several men and women in suits walked in from outside the door. Amba Yangja turned his head and saw that the people coming were none other than the senior secretary of the Nansan area. "You are finally here. You have to take charge of my Amba family." Amba Yangja was so excited as if he had seen a savior that he couldn't express it in words and quickly stepped forward to make his accusation. "You should have seen it. These people broke into the territory of our Amba family, slaughtered our Amba family members, and even killed our Amba family heir." The senior secretary watched this scene and remained silent. "Why, you want to plead for him?" Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and looked at the senior secretary, then glanced at Amba Yangja beside him. "Mr. Yi, this is none of our top management's business," the senior secretary said to Yi Xian respectfully. "Whatever you do, our top management will agree with it." Boom! Seeing the attitude of the senior secretary, everyone showed an incredible expression at this time. Amba Yangja and others' eyes widened, their hair stood on end in an instant, and their backs were soaked with cold sweat. They looked at each other, no one could accept the situation before them. The top leaders of the Southern Three region actually had such an attitude towards an outsider. When things developed to this point, Amba Yangja felt dizzy and was really scared. Why? Holding on to the last glimmer of hope, Amba Yangja looked at the senior secretary almost desperately and asked hysterically. He just wanted to know why all this happened. "Humph. You have no vision." The senior secretary looked at Amba Yangja at this moment as if he was looking at a dead person, snorted coldly, and said indifferently, "This person is the one who stood in the west of China with a sword and a red flag. How could you not know him?" The senior secretary seemed a little aggrieved when he said this, but he also spoke with deep fear and respect. "Ah!" Amba Yangja screamed, and was completely stunned. He stared at Yi Xian blankly, with shock flashing in his eyes. No wonder. No wonder. Amba Yangja was in a daze at this moment, his pupils gradually turned dim, as if he had accepted his own ending. He never thought that the other party would be this person. When he heard that Yi Xian was a dragon general, why didn't he think of it? Thinking of this, Amba Yangja beat his chest and cried, wanting to cry but without tears. If he had known at that time that it was this person, he would not dare to do it even if he was given 10 times the courage. "Well, now that you know it, it's time to get going." Yi Xian glanced at Amba Yangja and responded coldly. Puff! Upon hearing this, Long Jun, who was standing by, raised his sword and swung it towards Amba Yangja's throat, ending his life completely. When the other core members of the Amba family saw this scene, their bodies trembled, with unwillingness and regret in their eyes. But before they could think for long, the swords of the others also swung over, and a moment later, these core members also followed Amba Yangja's footsteps. Then, Yi Xian glanced at the senior secretary and said expressionlessly, "Are you here to deliver a message?" Upon hearing this, the senior secretary stepped back unconsciously, not knowing how to respond. "He should come in person." Yi Xian looked at him and said softly. The secretary's heart trembled, cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and he stammered. "I'm sorry, Mr. Yi, the senior is seriously ill." "Seriously ill?" Yi Xian smiled and shook his head, saying calmly, "I don't have any disease. I'm afraid I'm just scared. I don't eat people." After saying that, Yi Xian turned around and left. Only then did the secretaries breathe a sigh of relief. Soon, everyone left here, leaving only a huge family and a spacious manor. It's a pity that now all the members of this family are corpses. Only these few underground dragon heads were left at the scene. They were leading people to clean up the place, and then began to count the property of the Amba family. In the end, all of these would be handed over to Yi Xian. At the same time, the news of the demise of the Amba family spread quickly, and since many dignitaries had witnessed it with their own eyes, the news became even more mysterious. Some people say that the Amba family suffered this tragic end because they had evil intentions and stretched their claws towards Yi Xian. Some people also said that it was Amba Yangzhe who did not recognize Yi Xian, which made Yi Xian angry and eventually led to this result. Soon, the story became more and more outrageous, and finally some people even said that the destruction of the Amba family was just an after-dinner entertainment for Yi Xian and others. And Yi Xian's image has been constantly deified, and there are many different opinions about it, and people are just following the crowd. Some say that Yi Xian is the one in power who is above the top leaders in the 3 southern regions, others say that Yi Xian is a descendant of one of the 8 major families in China, and some even believe that Yi Xian is the heir to a powerful hidden family. The other 3 major families also knew about this, and the image of the man who stood alone in the southern border and was invincible in the world appeared before their eyes again. After leaving the Amba family, Yi Xian took a shower outside to wash away the bloody smell on his body. Afterwards, Yi Xian, Sun Ji and Tang Hao drove back to the hotel. Dad. After opening the door, the little girl saw that it was Yi Xian who came, and they all threw themselves into Yi Xian's arms. Dad, where have you been? You've been gone for so long. Yi Shi pouted and said to Yi Xian angrily. That's right, Dad. You clearly said you would only stay for a little while. The other little girls also pouted, but they were still reluctant to leave Yi Xian's arms. Okay, isn't Dad back? Yi Xian rubbed the little girls' faces lovingly, his smile full of gentleness and kindness. At this moment, compared with his indifferent expression just now, Yi Xian turned into a super dad. Sun Ji, who was standing next to him, saw this scene and felt that they were completely different people. A few minutes ago, when Yi Xian was intimidating everyone, he was not like this. But when he saw these little girls, Yi Xian seemed to be a completely different person, losing his indifference and cruelty. Such gentleness made him, the apprentice, feel a little strange. Afterwards, Yi Xian played with the little ones in the room. On the other side, Long Fei also called, but it was not Yi Xian who answered the call, but Yi Shi. Hearing Long Fei's voice from the other side, Yi Shi greeted her sweetly. Sister Long Fei. I'm Xiao Shi. It's Xiao Si. Where's your father? My dad is here. Yi Shi smiled foolishly and asked Long Fei. Sister Long Fei, are you looking for my dad? I'm going to give the phone to Dad. Well, Xiao Si is so good. Then, Yi Shi handed the phone to Yi Xian and said in a baby voice. Dad, Sister Long Fei called. Yi Xian agreed, took it, turned on the speaker and put it aside. Master, I plan to organize a big chamber of commerce here, and there will be a banquet tomorrow. Will you come? Also, are there any of the junior sisters who are interested in finance? How about letting them inherit this chamber of commerce in the future? After hearing what Long Fei said, Yi Xian looked at the little guys beside him with a smile and asked softly. Sister Long Fei is asking you, are there any of you who like finance? The little guys breathed in a daze, looked at each other, and finally looked at Yi Xian in unison. Dad, what is finance? Is it gold melting? Wang Xinyo was listening at the side. She burst out laughing and said to Yi Xian. Oh, let's talk about this later. They are still too young now. They definitely don't understand these things yet. Chapter 149, Saying Bad Things About Me? Yi Xian also nodded with a wry smile and said nothing more. Sister Long Fei, is this party fun? Yi Xia just heard Long Fei say that there was a party, and asked with a silly smile. Yeah, it's fun. It's so fun. Long Fei also covered her mouth and smiled, and said to the little girls. My little junior sisters, do you want to come over and play? Okay. We're going. After hearing what Long Fei said, the little guys immediately became interested and clamored to play. All right. When Yi Xian saw that the little guys were all interested, he immediately agreed. After that, Long Fei talked to the little girls for a few more words and then hung up the phone. Then, Long Fei put away his phone, looked at the driver in front of him, and said lightly. Let's go to the Huayang Chamber of Commerce headquarters. Good. The driver agreed respectfully, then stepped on the accelerator and sped away. At this time, at the headquarters of Huayang Chamber of Commerce, many CEOs from China were gathered together. They are all Orthodox Chinese people, and they come to these 3 southern areas for business. It's just that these bosses now seem to be more aggrieved than each other, sighing from time to time, with a feeling of helplessness and bitterness. Almost every one of them had a look of sorrow on their face. Although their suits were straight, they still gave people a feeling of decadence. It was a feeling of exhaustion that could not be described. Such a group of people gathered in the Chamber of Commerce headquarters, making the entire headquarters full of depression, and even the air seemed to be frozen. The noble families and enterprises in the southern three regions are really going too far. In the silence, one of the Chamber of Commerce's senior executives had bloodshot eyes and slammed the table, shouting angrily. They actually proposed to reorganize the business. Isn't it obvious that they want to take over our business? Moreover, they have begun to unite and prepare to suppress us. This is simply too much. These savage monkeys are trying to force our Huashang.com into a dead end. When others heard this, they also sighed, with helplessness in their tone. Alas, what can we do? We can't resist them. After all, this is still their territory. Yes, they are the local tyrants. How can we, the outsiders doing business, fight against them? We just feel aggrieved. What can we do about it? All of a sudden, everyone started talking, accusing the companies and families in the three southern regions. I just don't understand. These guys can just suppress us if they want, but they have to redistribute the spheres of influence. Who are they trying to fool? That's right, isn't this just to make our business scope smaller and smaller? These guys don't know how to do business, but they are good at playing all these tricks. Just wait and see. These guys will soon join forces with us to suppress, manipulate, and even try to monopolize. I think you shouldn't think these beasts are too kind. They just want to swallow up our Chinese capital to expand their own strength. At this time, people's anger towards these companies and families has reached a point where it is difficult to reverse. But unfortunately, these noble families have been entrenched in the southern three areas for a long time, and they have extensive networks of contacts and deep-rooted power. Most of those enterprises grew up with the support of these families, relying on the support of powerful families to act tyrannically. However, although the chambers of commerce composed of these Chinese companies have risen rapidly, their connections and resources cannot be compared with those of these families and companies. Therefore, facing the oppression of these guys, they now have no better way than to swallow their anger. In the past, although these guys targeted us from time to time, it was not a big deal. But this time, they have put in all their efforts, joined forces, and used various means. They are bound to suffer losses. Thinking of this, everyone looked at the senior executives, who also sighed. They also felt that the other party had gone too far, and they were reluctant to see the industries they had developed over the years go to waste. They had put a lot of effort into this. Alas, what should we do? These barbarians are coming with such force, how can we resist them? Seeing that several senior executives were silent at this time, the other Chamber of Commerce members were also desperate. They also knew that even the senior executives could do nothing about this matter. We are in a foreign country, and these things dare to bully us. The man is innocent, but he is guilty of possessing a treasure. I finally understand this sentence now. People talked incessantly, either accusing those wealthy families and companies, or thinking of solutions, or comforting each other. But as time went on, people's voices became smaller and smaller, and later, they gradually disappeared. After all, their power in the southern three areas is still too small. The scene fell into dead silence again, with only a few occasional sighs being heard. By the way, I've already called Miss Long. At this time, one of the senior executives slapped his head and realized that he had almost forgotten about this matter because he was talking about other things just now. Ms. Long. Upon hearing this name, many people were startled, as if they had suddenly been given a shot of cardiotonic. A genuine smile appeared on their originally haggard faces. That's great. With Miss Long on our side, we are saved. Yeah, how can these clowns be compared with Miss Long? We have hope, that's great. Just as people were rejoicing, a staff member came in and looked at the senior executive who had just spoken and said, Mr. Zhang, Miss Long is here. Okay, I'll go and greet you right away. The senior executive was delighted and immediately went out excitedly to greet them, and the others followed him out. Ms. Long, you are here. As soon as they reached the door, everyone saw Long Fei walking in and quickly greeted him warmly. Long Fei nodded and walked in. The senior executives were not vague and quickly invited Long Fei to take a seat and pour tea. What's going on with this party today? Long Fei looked at the senior executives in front of him and asked calmly. Ms. Long, it's like this. Mr. Zhang, the senior executive just now, came up and continued to explain. We have encountered joint suppression from the noble families and enterprises in the three southern regions. Not only do they want us to redivide our sphere of influence, but they also want us to reduce our business scope. But we Chinese businessmen cannot afford to offend these local tyrants. We have no idea what to do. That's why we invited you to come here so that we can discuss this with you. The Huayang Chamber of Commerce was originally founded by Long Fei, but later on, he did not manage the Chamber of Commerce. However, it is still developing rapidly. Originally, Long Fei thought that the development of this Chamber of Commerce would be smooth sailing, but she didn't expect that it would turn out to be such a situation. Although shocked, Long Fei quickly accepted this fact. After all, the barbarians in the three southern regions are only using these little tricks to compete. These uncivilized monkeys don't have any other abilities for the time being. However, after hearing what the top leaders said, Long Fei also felt that these noble families were too arrogant. This was simply a naked targeting. Then she looked at the senior executives and wondered in her heart, should she also crash the stock market in the southern three regions? But Long Fei just thought about it and quickly put the idea behind him. After all, the three southern areas are too poor, and there is not much money to be made. However, Long Fei's expression was always in the eyes of the senior management. Seeing that Long Fei seemed to be thinking about something, they quickly continued to speak. Ms. Long, we are all the core members and representatives of various families at this gathering. You also know that our Huayang Chamber of Commerce is also the one being excluded here. At this point, the senior executive hesitated, but Long Fei waved his hand, signaling him to continue. It's okay, just tell me. After getting Long Fei's consent, the senior executive smiled gratefully and continued. Okay, Miss Long, we hope you can come with us to participate in this negotiation. You just need to show up. In this way, with your great help, I think our negotiations will be much smoother. Even if those guys don't treat us well, we still have to think about it. It won't work with you. Long Fei thought for a moment, then looked at their expectant expressions and nodded. Well, I was just planning to go there, but I didn't expect these noble families and companies to be so good at playing games. It's fine to compete openly, but if they do these shady things, then I can't just sit back and watch. Not long after that, Long Fei discussed with several senior executives. When he saw that the time was almost up, he looked at the people in front of him and said, Then I'll leave first. Things will leave it like this for now. I still have to go find my master. After saying that, Long Fei turned around and prepared to leave, but at this time, one of the bosses stopped Long Fei. Oh right. Miss Long. What's wrong? Hearing the voice, Long Fei turned around and looked at him puzzledly and asked. Miss Long, things in the South 3 have not been very peaceful recently. You should know about the Amba family, right? Amba family? Are you saying something happened to the Amba family? When Long Fei heard this and looked at the boss's nervous expression, he frowned and asked quickly. Ms. Long, you don't know. There is no Amba family in the South 3 lands now. Not long ago, the entire Amba family was purged by a mysterious force and was brutally wiped out. Now in the entire Amba family manor, there is no one alive in the Amba family. They are all dead, even the guards are all dead. Hearing this, Long Fei's mouth twitched, and he was immediately surprised. Who did this Amba family offend? Long Fei thought about it, but it was not her business. Even though she was shocked, she quickly calmed down and prepared to go find her master. Since the matter of the Amba family is a fait accompli, she is too lazy to think about it anymore. After leaving the Chamber of Commerce, Long Fei did not delay any longer. After getting in the car, he drove directly to the hotel where Yi Xian and others were. In the hotel, Yi Xian was explaining financial knowledge to a few little girls. His explanation was vivid, colorful, and interesting. We just talked about the relationship between currency and market. Now let me tell you what finance is. Speaking of finance, this is a huge topic. Xiaoxi's favorite Barbie doll, or Xiaoxiao's favorite ice cream, are both a kind of finance. We can sort out our pocket money and lucky money and buy lots of Barbie dolls, but there are no places to sell Barbie dolls, or sell ice cream to people in need on a hot summer day. In this way, the rewards we can get later will be greater than what we have at the beginning, because people who like Barbie dolls will be willing to spend more money on Barbie dolls, but we have them and they don't. That's the difference in resources. Ice cream is a good thing to cool down in the summer, and we responded to other people's needs, which shows our control over the market trend. In short, the meaning of finance is to integrate what we already have and use it to achieve what we want to achieve. In simple terms, it is to make money. After making money like this, Xiaoxi can buy better and more Barbie dolls, and Xiaoxia can eat more delicious ice cream. Yi Xian said this, pinching Yi Xiao's chubby little face with a smile. But even though ice cream tastes good, we can't eat too much of it. It's bad for our teeth and stomach. Yi Xian then gave several vivid examples. The little guys didn't find it boring at all. Instead, they were addicted to listening to it. Bang, bang, bang. After a while, there was a knock on the hotel door. Yi Xian opened the door and saw that the person who came was none other than Long Fei. Long Fei had a smile on his face and a weapon in his hand. He first smiled at Yi Xian and then looked inside. "Master, where did brother go? Come in first." Yi Xian let her in first, closed the door, and then continued. Sun Ji might have gone to look for the century-old medicine. After all, this is the purpose of his trip. "Oh, okay." Long Fei nodded and sat on the sofa. "Oh, you're here just in time. I'm going to go cook with your wife, and you can teach these little guys some finance knowledge." "Good." Long Fei smiled and nodded. This was a good job. Not only could she taste the master's cooking, but she could also play with these cute little girls. "Okay, let's get started." Long Fei put down the gift and walked over to the little guys with a smile. "As for me, I will first give you some simple knowledge about financial management options. First of all, we can't just keep our money with us all the time. One reason is that it's heavy, and the other is that it's easy to be stolen, so we need a bank card." Sitting next to a few little girls, Long Fei smiled and began to talk to them. The little ones also kept their mouths shut and listened attentively. At this time, Yi Xian and Wang Xinya were cooking in the kitchen. Yi Xian was frying the vegetables, while Wang Xinya was helping Yi Xian. "Xinyao, give me the minced garlic." Wang Xinyao nodded when she heard this, and handed the small bowl of minced garlic to Yi Xian. Yi Xian took the small bowl with a wicked smile, but did not let go of Wang Xinyao's hand. Feeling this slender, smooth and white little hand, Yi Xian was reluctant to let go for a moment. Wang Xinyao blushed immediately and was about to say something, but Yi Xian followed the clues, leaned behind Wang Xinyao, and held Wang Xinyao's hands on her chest. "Hubby, the girls and Xiao Fei are still outside. It's okay. Long Fei is teaching them finance." Yi Xian smiled and leaned over to Wang Xinyao's ear, speaking softly. "We haven't had this kind of alone time for a long time. It seems so." Wang Xinyao's voice was as soft as a mosquito's, with a charming blush on her face, and she nodded gently. Today, Long Fei is looking after the girls. Otherwise, on normal days, even when cooking, the little girls would also walk around in the kitchen, or watch Yi Xian cook. It would never be like today. Let's take it slow today. We don't have much time like this. Yi Xian sighed, and just like that, he hugged Wang Xinyao from behind and cut the vegetables slowly. The two of them were being affectionate while doing their work. Although not as fast as usual, they finished the meal soon. "Okay, we can go out now." Yi Xian walked out with 2 plates of food in his hands, smiling. At this time, Long Fei was still giving lectures to a few little ones. Although the little ones listened very seriously, they still complained a few times. "Sister Long, your lectures are not as interesting as Dad's." "Yeah, but Sister Long has already explained it very well. But I still want to hear it from Dad." Long Fei was silent for a while, looking at the playful looks of these little guys, and pouted her lips in grievance. "Come on, your father's lectures to us were even more boring. And you just don't care about anything after teaching. I'm still good enough, but you little guys are still not satisfied." Ahem. At this time, Yi Xian coughed twice at the kitchen door. Long Fei was still talking, but was startled by the cough. Chapter 150, stepping in, looking down on the whole audience. "Hey, Master, I can smell the fragrance of your cooking from a long distance away. Your cooking skills are amazing." Long Fei was a little embarrassed, and then she smiled foolishly and praised Yi Xian a lot. "Okay, let's eat." Yi Xian smiled bitterly and shook his head. Several maids rushed over and followed Yi Xian to the dining table. During the meal, a few little girls were still discussing the knowledge they had just learned. Their meticulous appearance was very cute, and it seemed that they had learned something. In the evening, Long Fei sat on the sofa, holding the little black cat in her arms, and said to Yi Xian with a smile, "Master, I will sleep here tonight." "Well, that's fine. There are extra rooms here. We can go there together tomorrow." Yi Xian was drinking tea beside him and nodded slightly. "Thank you, Master." After thanking Yi Xian, Long Fei ran to the little girls, rubbed their chubby faces, and spoke gently. "Little guys, can I sleep with you tonight?" "Not good." After Long Fei finished speaking, the little guys shook their heads, pouted their lips, and said to Long Fei, "We want to sleep with Daddy." Long Fei, #%. Only at this moment did Long Fei understand that Yi Xian was a genuine nanny. These girls were just too clingy. As he was speaking, there was another knock on the door. Long Fei grinned and quickly walked up to open the door. "Miss, I got what you wanted." When I opened the door, I saw that it was Long Fei's driver who came in. He was holding several handbags in his hands, which were full of cosmetics of various brands. "Well, thank you for your hard work." After Long Fei took the things, the driver turned and left. Wang Xinyao came over, looked at the bags in Long Fei's hands, and asked in confusion, "Xiao Fei, what is this?" He. Long Fei didn't say anything, but walked over with the bag and opened the bag to Wang Xinyao. Dang. Wang Xinyao was also stunned at this time. What was filled in here were all cosmetics. Moreover, these are all limited edition cosmetics from the most cutting-edge brands, including lipsticks, lotions, essences, eye creams, and so on. "Xiao Fei, how did you get so many cosmetics?" Wang Xinyao looked at her in surprise. The impact was really too great. "Sister Xinyao, let's use it together." As he spoke, Long Fei pulled Wang Xinyao aside and sat down to study the pile of cosmetics. "Long Fei, you call me master, why do you call your master's wife sister?" Yi Xian found it funny and said to Long Fei, "Master." Long Fei chuckled and continued, "We can just call each other by our own names. I'll call you master and master's wife sister. Isn't that great? Besides, Sister Xinyao is so young and beautiful, why can't I call her that?" "Okay. Whatever you say." Yi Xian smiled bitterly and shook his head, there was nothing he could do about her. Seeing this, a few little girls came over and looked at the pile of exquisitely packaged cosmetics with admiration in their eyes. At this time, in such a large room, Yi Xian was completely isolated. "Ah, what kind of magic do these things have?" Yi Xian sighed. These few little guys actually came and started to study with great interest. Seeing this, Long Fei raised her head and looked at Yi Xian proudly, sticking out her tongue proudly. Yi Xian rolled his eyes at her and started drinking his tea. After a while of noise, it was time to go to bed. Long Fei shook a few exquisite lipsticks in her hand and smiled at the little girls. "Little ones, sleep with your sister today. If you listen to your sister will buy you some cosmetics. How about that?" "Don't want." But the little girls shook their heads and ran back to Yi Xian's room without looking back. Alas, why are these junior sisters so hard to fool? Long Fei sighed. It seems that she will have to sleep alone after all. The next morning, everyone got up early, had a quick breakfast, and then changed into formal attire, ready to attend the banquet. At this time, in the northern part of the South Three Lands, in the Zhanghan Club. When we walked into this club, we saw that it was packed with celebrities and dignitaries. These people were all dressed in suits and looked very dignified. They held red wine glasses in their hands and gathered in groups of 3 or 5, chatting about business while clinking their glasses elegantly. At the entrance of the club, there are many luxury cars parked. Even the lowest end ones are supercars worth millions. In the clubhouse, the noble families and enterprises from the 3 southern regions gathered together, smiled at each other, and then started talking. "Hey, who do you think the Huayang Chamber of Commerce will send this time?" One of the middle-aged men took a sip of red wine and mentioned the Huayang Chamber of Commerce with a disdainful smile on his face. "I think it's the guy with the surname Zhao, maybe his name is Zhao Rui. He's a senior executive of the Huayang Chamber of Commerce. It's not just Zhao Rui, Xia Yunsheng, Zhu Hongyue and others are also indispensable. Come on, we only took a few people, how many others are worthy of coming?" During the discussion, everyone nodded slightly. It seemed that everyone had similar views on the answer. Alas, the Huayang Chamber of Commerce has become increasingly powerful recently. We must put pressure on them and suppress them, otherwise the situation will be unfavorable to us. Speaking of Huayang Chamber of Commerce, a young man sighed and talked about the current development status of Huayang Chamber of Commerce. "Well, you're right. No matter what, we can't let those Chinese people take all the money." Indeed, over the years, the business scope of the Huayang Chamber of Commerce has become increasingly broad, and the survival space of many of our companies is not good. It seems that we have to resort to some tricks. These Chinese people will not be polite to us. As for the matter of Huayang Chamber of Commerce, everyone was united in their hatred of the enemy. After all, the Huayang Chamber of Commerce did pose a considerable threat to them. By the way, do you know about that incident? At this moment, the middle-aged man who had just spoken shuddered and asked loudly to everyone. "What is it?" Everyone looked at each other, but for a moment they couldn't remember what had happened recently. It's the Amba family's business. The middle-aged man spoke hysterically, with a hint of fear in his eyes. The Amba family, I heard that it seems to be finished. At this point, people recalled the rumors they had heard recently, and then they listened to the middle-aged man continue. Let me tell you, according to the information I received, the demise of the Amba family was just the result of one person's impromptu idea. It seems that Amba Xin of the Amba family provoked this person. Then, a team under this man killed everyone in the Amba family villa with lightning speed. Even Amba Yangzhe lost his head. The most incredible thing is that even the top executives came, but there was still no solution. The top executives didn't dare to intervene in the matter. The middle-aged man said this much, and that was all he knew. However, these few short sentences left the others dumbfounded. Even the top management can't control this person, so let's not discuss this anymore. A young man spoke to everyone with surprise in his eyes and stammered. I think so too. At this sensitive moment, we should try not to bring trouble upon ourselves. Don't get sidetracked. This is none of our business. The most important thing for us now is to discuss how to deal with the Huayang Chamber of Commerce. The others also agreed with this, so they just briefly touched upon this topic and returned to the previous topic. Do you have any good ideas? Anyway, I think if we are going to do it, we might as well make it bigger and not let these Chinese people continue to develop. That's right. People agreed when they heard this and began to discuss the interests involved in detail. Huayang Chamber of Commerce is here. But at this moment, it suddenly became noisy outside, and everyone's attention was drawn to it, and they all looked over there. At this time, people from Huayang Chamber of Commerce walked into the clubhouse. People looked outside and saw that many senior executives of Huayang Chamber of Commerce had come. Whether it was Zhao Rui or Xia Yunsheng, they were all wearing formal attire and striding towards this side. But what is strange is that these senior executives were walking in front of a girl and a young man. This girl was none other than Long Fei, and the young man next to her was naturally Yi Xian. Yi Xian was wearing a blue suit, shiny leather shoes, and had an indifferent look in his eyes as he scanned the entire audience. The aura emanating from Yi Xian's body immediately made people feel a strong sense of oppression, which made them dare not look directly at Yi Xian, and even their breathing stagnated. Everyone was watching this scene, and they were all confused. Who was this person? Why was he walking in front? However, the top leaders of Huayang Chamber of Commerce followed behind without showing any dissatisfaction. Chapter 151 Provocation. Let me introduce these two to you. They are the founders of our Huaxia Chamber of Commerce. A senior executive of the Huayang Chamber of Commerce looked at the puzzled faces of the crowd and stepped forward to introduce. This is Miss Long Feilong, and this is Mr. Yi Xuanya. They are both real masters among our Chinese businessmen. After this introduction, everyone fell silent, especially those who were discussing how to expel the power of Huayang Chamber of Commerce. Their faces turned black at this moment. After all, when a person like this comes, he is not at the same level as them at all. Not to mention them, even their dad is here, and it seems like he is on an equal footing with these two at most. They were not strangers to the people from Huayang Chamber of Commerce, but they had never met the boss of Huayang Chamber of Commerce. They didn't expect that both of them would come here today. What should I do? Why are they here? Then we are done. How can we continue this discussion? It's obvious that we are not on the same level as these two. I think it's difficult to deal with. That woman is fine, but this man is too mysterious. The oppressive feeling he gave me at first sight just now will be unforgettable for the rest of my life. Seeing this situation, everyone couldn't help but whisper to each other, and everyone had a worried look on their faces. Originally, they felt that even though the Huayang Chamber of Commerce had grown somewhat stronger in recent years, it was still lacking something compared to the local tycoons like them. But now that the two big bosses are here, what they have may not be enough. How about this? We should quickly inform our family, otherwise, there really won't be anything we can do. One of them stroked his chin in thought and asked everyone. Yeah, I think so too. Otherwise, let alone suppressing the Huayang Chamber of Commerce this time, even our own industries may be taken away by others. I agree. I'll go inform my old man right away. Everyone nodded when they heard this. After all, things had developed to this point and it was no longer something they could control or influence. At this moment, in a villa area in Nansan, several old men were gathering together drinking tea, when suddenly a young member of the family rushed in from outside, looking extremely panicked. Old man, something bad has happened. The old man who was the leader in the reception room slowly put down his teacup, looked back at him calmly, and said softly, "You are so flustered, how can you be so unbecoming? If you have something to say, just speak slowly." The young man nodded, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and then spoke. "Grandpa, we just received a call from the young master and his friends. The two bosses of Huayang Chamber of Commerce made their debut at today's banquet." "What?" Hearing the sound, the old man frowned, his heart was filled with turbulent waves. After all, no one has ever seen the boss of the Huayang Chamber of Commerce since its establishment, but he actually showed up today. However, logically speaking, since the Huayang Chamber of Commerce has been able to develop so fast, they don't believe that there is no help from others behind the scenes. Moreover, they showed up at this banquet, not earlier or later. If this wasn't an obvious intention, what else could it be? This banquet is not just a simple banquet. Although it is not stated openly, its purpose is to suppress the Huayang Chamber of Commerce. They all knew that if the Huayang Chamber of Commerce was allowed to develop, it would be detrimental to all of them. The old man was confused for a moment while thinking, but he was also very clear. Since the notification has reached his level, it can be said that the boss of Huayang Chamber of Commerce is not so easy to deal with. Not to mention how difficult it is to deal with, but it is also something that those young people can't shake. Thinking of this, the old man stood up, looked at the other old men beside him, and said apologetically, "My dear friends, you should be able to see that I can't not show up this time. Why don't we get together another day?" The old men nodded seriously and also stood up and spoke. "Mr. Yu, you are too serious. We all know the pros and cons of this matter, so we can't just stand by and watch. We will go with you, Patriarch Yu. This matter is not unrelated to us. Then let's not waste any more time, let's go." Old Master Yu looked at them and nodded, then he got up and went out. The car was already prepared outside, and he drove towards the banquet venue. The other old men had just got on the car and had received messages or calls from the younger generations of the family one after another. At this time, they looked at each other, sighed and said, "It seems that this matter is not that simple." Mr. Yu looked out the window and suddenly had a bad feeling. At the banquet, Yi Xian had already sat down, drinking tea leisurely with his brows lowered, as if everything around him was nothing but clouds to him. This kind of self-confidence can only be truly possessed after one's own strength reaches a certain level. As for the little girls next to Yi Xian, they had also seen many big scenes with Yi Xian, so they were calm and composed at this moment, sitting obediently beside Yi Xian. Everyone present looked at Yi Xian and Long Fei, and took a breath from time to time. All of them were shocked by how young these two were. This is not something that a playboy from a family can have, and as the two founders of the Huayang Chamber of Commerce, they have nothing to do with playboys no matter what. This aura is too strong. Several local wealthy businessmen on the other side looked at Yi Xian and couldn't help but praise him repeatedly, and they were also talking about it. Alas! We can't handle this kind of aura. To deal with people like this, our fathers have to come. Our level is still too low. It's incredible. These two look so young. Compared to them, I am simply ashamed of myself. Several senior executives of Huayang Chamber of Commerce did not notice that these people were still whispering. Seeing that most of them were silent at this time, one of them stood up and spoke. "Why don't we just start the banquet today? I think almost everyone has arrived." After hearing what the top leaders of Huayang Chamber of Commerce said, the noble families and enterprises in the three southern regions waved their hands and spoke to them with a smile. "It's okay, don't worry, it seems some people haven't arrived yet, let's wait a little longer." "That's right, it's better to wait until someone arrives. Please wait patiently for a moment. We have spent all our time today and finally got here. It's not too late to wait a little longer." Several senior executives looked at each other after hearing the voice. They were all smart and knew what these people were thinking immediately. Then several senior executives looked at Long Fei and thought to themselves that it was not good. It was okay at this moment, but they didn't know if Miss Long could suppress it after this. "Oh no, these uncivilized monkeys are trying to play dirty, what should we do?" "Yes, I'm worried that Miss Long won't be able to control these people. Then we're doomed to fail. Damn it." As soon as these guys saw that something was wrong, they started calling for help. They are so shameless. The senior executives were all more or less worried and couldn't help but discuss a few words at this time. As they were talking, these senior executives looked at Yi Xian on the other side. No one knew where Yi Xian came from. But he seemed to have heard Miss Long calling him master just now. Now he could only hope that Yi Xian could calm the situation down later. However, even though they said so, people did not hold out much hope in their hearts. After all, both Miss Long and her master were newcomers in this Nansan area. How much say could they have? As time went by, the top leaders of Huayang Chamber of Commerce became increasingly nervous. After all, this was a matter of life and death, and it was not something that could be dismissed as a joke. Even though the senior executives had their own thoughts at this time, they could only wait. Since the other party wanted to wait, it would be useless for them to ask to start. Afterwards, after an unknown amount of time had passed, many heads and CEOs of families and groups arrived one after another, walked into the clubhouse without hesitation, and greeted each other. "Old you, why are you here too?" "There's nothing we can do, old one. After all, we are the head of the family. Children and grandchildren don't matter. As long as it's beneficial to the family, it doesn't matter." While chatting, these people also sat aside, their eyes all looked at Yi Xian and Long Fei, and their hearts trembled. They all heard about Yi Xian and Long Fei, but no matter how hard they tried, they could not imagine that Yi Xian and Long Fei were so young. No matter what, he is still the founder of Huayang Chamber of Commerce. Even if he is young and promising, his age is too old. Seeing this scene, these old guys began to exchange glances, all with a hint of solemnity in their expressions. I really didn't expect that the two founders of Huayang Chamber of Commerce are too young. Indeed, it's rare to have such an aura at such a young age. Otherwise, what are we doing here? We must unite. That's right. Although I didn't expect the founder of Huayang Chamber of Commerce to really come, we are united as one, but they are powerless to save the situation. At this time, these family heads and bosses were talking in whispers and soon reached a consensus. "Well, everyone is here, well, let's get started." At this time, Old Man Yu of the Yu family walked out, looked at everyone and said. After he finished speaking, everyone focused their attention and knew what was going to happen next. Old Master Yu Li glanced at everyone, then looked towards the Huayang Chamber of Commerce and said calmly. "Since you're all here, let's not hide anything. Everyone knows the purpose of this banquet. The business community in our southern three regions needs to start integrating resources again. This is an urgent matter, and I believe you all know the reasons better than I do." As he was speaking, Yu Li changed the subject and pointed his sword at everyone in Huayang Chamber of Commerce, his tone extremely indifferent. Everyone knows that the development speed of Huayang Chamber of Commerce in our Nansan area is extremely fast and can be called a miracle. But the Huayang Chamber of Commerce has a monopoly in many industries, so it has achieved today's development in current scale. But this is undoubtedly an act of destroying the market. It is not worth promoting and we must correct it. So, I propose that while we integrate resources, we should also go to the business scope of Huayang Chamber of Commerce and spit out all the things that we shouldn't eat. At this moment, the only voice left in the entire club was Yu Li's stern voice. After a moment of silence, the people behind Yu Li also began to echo him. That's right. The pie in the South 3 is so small. As an outsider, why should the Huayang Chamber of Commerce occupy so many resources? This is simply putting the cart before the horse. I agree. We need to restrict the business of Huayang Chamber of Commerce and take back all our national industries. That's right. They are outsiders. We are the natives here. We must defend our right to occupy this place. For a moment, except for the people from Huayang Chamber of Commerce, the people from other aristocratic families and enterprises were all in an uproar, and all pointed their spearheads at the people from Huayang Chamber of Commerce. Although the senior executives of Huayang Chamber of Commerce were angry when they heard this, they did not say anything, but looked at Long Fei next to them. Long Fei's face wasn't looking good either. These guys were so blatant and didn't hide it at all. They didn't take them seriously at all. But Long Fei did not say anything, and was naturally waiting for Yi Xian to speak. After a while, Yu Li had almost finished speaking, and the crowd's voices became quieter, and the scene fell into silence again. Are you done? Yi Xian took a sip of tea and looked coldly at the people from the three southern regions. The people from the South Three Lands did not speak, but stared at Yi Xian in unison. Their meaning was very clear. They wanted Yi Xian to give them an answer. I say to you so-called indigenous people, those who are capable should speak with your products, and those who are incompetent should just shut up and deserve to be punished. Yi Xian's words almost made all the family heads and bosses so angry that their noses were crooked. They didn't expect that Yi Xian's attitude would be so tough, and he was so arrogant in the face of them. You mean, you're not going to give in at all? Yu Li's eyelids twitched, and although his face turned a little pale, he still asked patiently. Yi Xian nodded and said with a sneer. Give in? Why should we give in? Don't worry, not only will we not give in, we will also speed up our expansion. And from my personal point of view, I don't think you can stop me. Boom. If Yi Xian's words just now could be considered arrogant, but now, it is simply a naked provocation. Chapter 152, It's ridiculous to talk nonsense. Everyone just felt their scalps tingling and their heads buzzing. They all looked at Yi Xian in disbelief. The senior executives of Huayang Chamber of Commerce were staring at each other in amazement. Although they knew that this was Miss Long Feilong's master, they did not expect Yi Xian to be so tough and dare to speak to these people like this. These people all have deep-rooted power in the local area, and now they are colluding with each other. In comparison, their Huayang Chamber of Commerce seems a little weak. But based on Yi Xian's performance just now, the senior executives couldn't help but wonder in their hearts, are these people trying to restrict their Huayang Chamber of Commerce? Or is Yi Xian trying to monopolize the South Three Lands? In an instant, the situation between the attacker and the defender seemed to have changed. They were unable to accept it and did not dare to speak. They just looked on in confusion. The heads of the families and the CEOs in the three southern regions all had livid faces and were gritting their teeth in hatred. This is undoubtedly a shame for them. It is embarrassing enough to tell others that the Chinese people who came here from outside can monopolize their industries in their own land. But now in this negotiation, Yi Xian even threatened to continue expanding. How arrogant he is. He simply doesn't take these families and companies seriously. Then I want to see if you can do it. Anyway, I think you can't do it. Yuli was about to explode at this moment, his face turned dark, but he still tried to remain calm, gritted his teeth, and said to Yi Xian with disdain. You are an outsider, I don't know why you are so arrogant, let's wait and see. You really don't take us seriously, right? You will regret it. You will definitely regret it. You, the Huayang Chamber of Commerce, have really grown in capability. Do you really think we are made of clay? The others were so angry at this time that they were spraying at Yi Xian in anger. But they refused to believe that what Yi Xian said was true, nor did they believe that Yi Xian had the ability to do so. After all, they also felt that with so many families and companies, it was more than enough to deal with the Huayang Chamber of Commerce. You have to know that the Huayang Chamber of Commerce is from outside, they are the real local bosses. If all of them united together were unable to suppress the Huayang Chamber of Commerce, that would be truly ridiculous. Thinking of this, these guys became more and more tough in their attitudes. In an instant, Yi Xian could be said to have become the target of public criticism. At this moment, Borak, the eldest son of the Bora family, one of the four major families in the South Three Lands, also walked in. Inside the club, everyone was still chattering, but when they saw Borak coming, the voices suddenly stopped. At this moment, everyone was stunned. They all knew this person. He was the eldest son of the Bora family and the future head of the Bora family. Master Borak, you are here. Master, please come in and take a seat. It's been a long time since we last met. Master Bola is still as dignified as ever. He is truly a role model for us to admire. As a result, everyone's attention shifted to Borak. Everyone had a flattering smile on their face and vied with each other to greet him respectfully. Those family heads and CEOs were overjoyed at this time, thinking that God was helping them this time, as people from the Bora family had actually come. If they could pull the eldest son of the Bola family over to their side, then even if the people from the Huayang Chamber of Commerce wanted to be strong, they would definitely suffer a setback. After all, this is one of the four major families in the southern three areas. To be more precise, it should be the Bora family, one of the three major families. How can a mere Chinese Chamber of Commerce be compared with it? When people thought of this, they smiled even more and rushed to greet Borak and shake hands. Then many family patriarchs and business CEOs came over and told Borak about what happened in the Chinese Chamber of Commerce just now, but they exaggerated Yi Xian's excessive behavior. Master Borak, you don't know that the Huayang Chamber of Commerce just made a bold statement at the banquet, saying that it would expand the business scope of the Chamber of Commerce step by step and wanted to swallow us all up. And this time, their founder is here too, and he looks aggressive. I'm afraid he's not easy to mess with. As everyone was talking, they looked at Yi Xian standing aside, and Borak also looked over. But when Borak's eyes noticed Yi Xian, all the hairs on his body stood up and his eyes widened instantly. After confirming that this was indeed Yi Xian, Borak quickly walked up to him with a look of horror on his face. When everyone saw this scene, they were stunned for a moment, staring stupidly at Borak's back as he walked away quickly, muttering to themselves. Why is this happening? I don't know. Could it be that this person knows Master Borak? I think Master Borak is going to teach this guy a lesson. This guy won't dare to do anything rash now. After hearing this, everyone nodded. After all, in their hearts, Boric was the future leader of the three major families, and he had absolute say in the South Three. However, to their surprise, after Boric walked in front of Yi Xian, he instantly lowered his head. Master Yi, I just came here to take a look. I don't mean anything. My family doesn't have any other intentions. If anything, our Bora family will stand firmly on your side. Boom! It exploded. It completely exploded. If the shock that Yi Xian brought to them just now was just a tingling sensation in their scalps, then Boric's performance at this moment was simply like a bolt from the blue. People looked at each other at this time, with deep shock in each other's eyes, but slowly, they became confused. They couldn't believe what they saw. Boric, the heir of the Boric family, was so respectful to a young man from a foreigner. The impact of this scene on everyone now is no less than a magnitude 12 earthquake. It is like a nuclear bomb exploding in their center. How could this be true? Everyone looked at him in confusion, their hearts full of questions. Even if the Huayang Chamber of Commerce has made considerable progress, and even if Yi Xian is the founder of this Chamber of Commerce, Boric would never have such an attitude. Yu Li's face turned pale at this moment. Even Boric had to treat this kind of existence. How could their family compete with him? Thinking of this, he suddenly felt that coming here today was a mistake. This scene really made people's three views completely collapse. They had never seen such a scene before. A person who had absolute say in the South Three regions actually bowed his head in front of an outsider. It's like a tiger living deep in the mountains bowing down to a sheep that strayed into the mountains. It's really incredible. At that moment, the air in this club seemed to freeze. Everyone felt their breathing becoming more and more rapid, as if the heartbeats of the people around them were almost reaching their ears. Those family patriarchs and business CEOs suddenly broke out in cold sweats. They were so tough just now, but now they were all thrown into disarray. Master Boric, why is this happening? What are you doing? He is our enemy, and he is encroaching on the common interests of all of us in the South Three lands. In that case, why do you? In the silence, a CEO came over, looked at Boric in disbelief, and asked in confusion. But before the guy could finish his words, Boric gritted his teeth, turned around to look at the boss who was speaking, and slapped him hard. Bang! The crisp sound of the slap was as loud as thunder in the entire club, and everyone was stunned. The boss also covered his face and looked at Boric aggrievedly, but he didn't know what to say. He was almost in tears. How dare you? How could Lord Yi be interested in your petty gains? At this time, Boric's eyes were red, and he looked at the boss with disappointment and said angrily, "Don't you know that even the once huge Amba family was destroyed because of a word from Lord Yi? And you, a bunch of clowns, are not qualified to speak nonsense here. It's simply ridiculous." Chapter 153: Who Dares Not to Agree? As he spoke, fear flashed in Boric's eyes from time to time. He cursed these people inwardly, calling them stupid teammates, and couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. But at this moment, everyone was shocked again. They now felt that their minds were blank and they were unable to process the information they received. They felt that their brains were about to crash. The Yi Xian that they were all pointing fingers at just now was actually the one who caused the huge chaos yesterday. In the blink of an eye, a big family that occupied a place in the southern three regions was wiped out. What a powerful strength! They simply couldn't imagine why Yi Xian could be so powerful, nor could they imagine why they were so stupid. Their behavior just now was simply like challenging the will of God and playing with fire and getting burned. Even the Amba family couldn't stop Yi Xian, so what were these people like? This cannot be described as a mayfly trying to shake a tree or a mantis trying to stop a chariot. This is simply like lighting a lamp in a pit toilet. It's courting death. Thinking of this, people's faces turned extremely pale and their bodies trembled with fear. They could almost foresee their own fate. After provoking Yi Xian like this, wouldn't their life and death still be in his hands? At this point, these people are just like deflated balls. The more inflated they were just now, the weaker they are now. If they were given another chance, they would rather kowtow hundreds of times in front of Yi Xian than provoke Yi Xian again, even with just a word. Especially old man Yuli from the Yu family, he seemed to have aged by 10 years at this moment. If it weren't for the people around him supporting him, he would have collapsed to the ground. He knew in his heart that the Amba family had cooperation with several underground leaders, and as one of the four major families, the top leaders in the southern three areas would not ignore it. But what does it mean that Yi Xian can come to this banquet so decently? The matter is already very clear. Those so-called underground leaders and the high-level officials in the south three regions above are unable to do anything to Yi Xian. The strongest force in the three southern regions is so weak in front of the Chinese youth. It can be said to be a living dimensionality reduction attack. At this moment, not to mention the people in the three southern areas, even Long Fei and the people from Huayang Chamber of Commerce all looked at Yi Xian in unison, with shock written on their faces. No one expected this would be the ending. The top executives of the Chamber of Commerce also felt dizzy and their minds were in a mess. At the beginning, they may have placed their bets on Miss Long Feilong, but it was just a glimmer of hope. After all, they are outsiders. If they are suppressed here, they can only be prepared to suffer losses in secret. But Miss Long Feilong's master, with his own strength, turned around this fatal situation for them. They also didn't expect that the well-known Amba family was destroyed by Yi Xian in an instant. This is so psychedelic that even novels don't dare to write like this. Thinking of this, several senior executives began to speculate in their hearts, what is Yi Xian's identity? Is he really just Long Fei's master? He has such powerful capabilities in a foreign country. If this happened in China, it would be exposed to the world. At such an age, with such means and courage, how many people can there be in the whole world, let alone in China? For a moment, people on both sides were dumbfounded, not knowing what to say, and unable to say anything. Master Yi, please calm down. I assure you that I have nothing to do with these people. I am here just to attend a banquet, nothing more. At this time, Boric bent deeply towards Yi Xian, with deep fear in his eyes. At this time, he was scared. He was really scared. He felt so regretful in his heart. Why did he come to this party today? Moreover, he encountered these stupid teammates, who were showing off in front of Yi Xian and even threatened to suppress the Chamber of Commerce under Yi Xian. Isn't this just courting death? Now he just hopes that he can distance himself from this matter and not involve the Bora family. Otherwise, before Yi Xian can kill them, his father will skin him alive. Long Fei also covered his mouth at this time, and was extremely horrified in his heart. My master is too powerful. At the same time, Long Fei pouted and couldn't help thinking. This unlucky Amba family deserves it. What kind of evil things did they do to anger their master to such an extent? Long Fei imagined the master who slaughtered an entire family with red eyes, and then thought about the super dad in front of several little sisters. This is simply not the same person. Yi Xian ignored Boric, but glanced at those families and companies. However, just one glance almost frightened them all to death, and their already pale faces became even more bloodless. The CEOs and senior executives of Huayang Chamber of Commerce were also stunned at this moment. After being silent for who knows how long, they finally reacted, and there was ecstasy in everyone's eyes. They already knew that from now on, the Huayang Chamber of Commerce would surely soar to new heights in the southern three regions. The few little guys standing next to Yi Xian pouted and looked at everyone's reactions with confusion. As for Wang Xinyao, her face was filled with shock. Yesterday, Yi Xian just said that he would be back later and asked them to go back first. She didn't take it to heart. But no matter what, she couldn't accept that Yi Xian had completely destroyed an entire family in such a short period of time. Wang Xinyao is not stupid. She can tell from the reactions of the crowd that this family is not a small family, but should be one of the best families here. But such a local overlord was actually destroyed so easily by her own husband. Thinking of this, Wang Xinyao suddenly remembered that when she was in the tea garden, her classmates kept reminding her that this Nansan area was not a peaceful place. But in such a foreign country, such a chaotic area, in front of her husband, it was like a lame chihuahua, with no deterrent effect at all. At this moment, Wang Xinyao looked at so many people and actually bowed to her husband respectfully. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but twitch. Back to Yi Xian, he didn't say anything at this time, but looked at everyone indifferently, and then walked to Long Fei. Long Fei, I'm leaving now. I'll leave this place to you. Okay, master. Long Fei nodded playfully, and then sent Yi Xian out. Upon seeing this, Boric hurriedly followed, very respectfully, apologizing from time to time, sincerely and humbly. He was originally the eldest son of a big family, but now he was like a toothless tiger in front of Yi Xian, even worse than a cat. Then, Yi Xian took Wang Xinyao and a few little ones into the car. Several little guys got into the car, 3 or 5 of them threw themselves into Yi Xian's arms, and they all poked out their little heads and asked Yi Xian, "Dad, why are we leaving after just a short while? We haven't even had our meal yet." Wang Xinyao chuckled, rubbed the little girls' faces, and explained with a smile. "Dad's mission of keeping the place under control has been completed, so we can leave now." And you guys, can you please stop just eating for free? You are such a bunch of greedy little cats. A few little girls nodded, but they still didn't understand much. Although they knew they were greedy, they still didn't know what it meant to calm the situation. Yi Xia pouted her lips, looked at Yi Xian curiously, and asked in a baby voice. Dad, what does it mean to keep the place in order? Is it cleaning? Yi Xian looked at Xia Xia with a wry smile, not knowing whether to laugh or cry for a moment, so he hugged Yi Xia in his arms and explained softly. Silly girl, why are you cleaning? Dad is just here to be there, so that those bad uncles won't dare to do anything bad to your sister Long. Then, your sister Long will be able to gain more benefits and make more money. With this money, the uncles who came with us just now will also live a better life in this foreign country. Well, do you know now? We got it. After hearing Yi Xian's explanation, the little guys nodded heavily. I know. Dad is the stone lion in front of the house. Yi Xi giggled and said excitedly. Oh? Why? Yi Xian was immediately happy and pinched Yi Xi's little face. Well, because our teacher said that the stone lion in front of the house can not only scare away bad guys, but also attract wealth. After hearing Yi Xi's explanation, not to mention Yi Xian, even Wang Xinyao beside him couldn't help but laugh out loud. Ha ha ha. Xiaoxi, you are so smart. Yi Xian lovingly kissed Yi Xi's little face. Even he himself hadn't thought of this metaphor. At this moment in the meeting place, after Yi Xian left, Long Fei and others immediately changed their expressions. So, do you still want to suppress us now? Do you want to replan our resources? Do you want to restrict our business scope? Long Fei sat on a chair nearby, looking unhappily at the companies and families in the 3 southern regions. We don't dare. I'm sorry. At this moment, the arrogant guys like Yuli just now were just like rotten persimmons and could never amount to anything. Everyone, this is our narrow-mindedness. We know we are wrong. Yuli stood up and bowed to everyone guiltily but respectfully. We handled this matter inappropriately, we can't afford to play, and we don't know how to compete fairly. Now we won't interfere with any of your business anymore. How about we keep to ourselves? Yuli was extremely sincere at this time, but he was also trying his best to recover the impending losses. But who is Long Fei? How could he suffer such a loss? He refused at that time and said to Yuli. Wait, is this the end? What do you mean, miss? Yuli shuddered, knowing that Long Fei was Yi Xian's apprentice, and did not dare to neglect him, so he quickly asked in a low voice. Today, I want to explain a truth to you. Long Fei took a few steps forward, staring straight at Yuli and the others. Yuli and the others trembled again. You know, Yuli's aura is not something they can compare to. We Chinese have an old saying, those who kill others will be killed. Since you want to suppress us, why can't we suppress them back? As he spoke, Long Fei rolled his eyes, glanced at the people from the Chamber of Commerce behind him, and began to speak slowly. But we Chinese often say that we should leave a way out for each other so that we can meet again in the future. These are just a few of my requests. Please follow my advice. First, you are prohibited from interfering in any business affairs of our Huayang Chamber of Commerce. Secondly, our Huayang Chamber of Commerce has achieved the largest market share in the 3 southern regions. For 3 years, we will prohibit companies from entering the other 3 southern regions. Hearing this, Yuli and the others' faces changed drastically. This was said to leave them a way out, but in the 3 southern regions, the Huayang Chamber of Commerce was involved in a lot of businesses. Although this will only last for 3 years, after 3 years, what will they use to compete with the Huayang Chamber of Commerce? Seeing the bitter faces of everyone, Long Fei chuckled and continued. Don't be discouraged. I'm doing this for your own good. This will also stimulate your market vitality. What do you think? Do you have any objections? No. We will follow your arrangements. Naturally, everyone dared not refuse at this time, and immediately nodded frantically, agreeing without hesitation. Chapter 154 This is the kingdom I built for you. At the same time, in the Li family of China, the old man of the Li family, Li Shi, was drinking tea leisurely. There were several middle-aged men sitting beside him, all of whom were his sons. At this time, they were discussing the future development direction of the Li family and planning the next stage of development of the Li family. Yanji's trip to the southern 3 places this time has established a good relationship with the Amba family, which will help my Li family move to a higher level. Li Yanji took a sip of tea and couldn't help but imagine the future of the Li family. By then, we will join forces with the Amba family. Soon, the entire intercontinental pharmaceutical business will belong to us, right? Upon hearing this, the other sons also showed joy on their faces and felt very optimistic in their hearts. After all, there was no way that the Amba family would not cooperate with them. This would be a very beneficial thing for both parties. Third brother, Yanji has done a great job this time. You really taught him well. Having said that, several middle-aged people looked at Li Yanji's father Li He and began to congratulate him. This time when Li Yanji returned to the Li family, his status among the younger generation rose sharply. No, it's just a small favor from me, you two brothers don't deserve such praise. Li He said this, and at this moment he was smiling very happily, as if he had already seen his son returning victoriously. While drinking tea and chatting, everyone was also looking forward to good news from Li Yanji. But at this moment, the Li family's housekeeper, an old man over 50 years old, walked quickly. His face was extremely anxious, and his whole body was covered with cold sweat. The master is back. The butler shouted as he staggered in. You're back. Li Shi, Li He and others were delighted when they heard this, and they all looked towards the butler. However, they found that something was wrong with the butler's expression. As a result, everyone frowned, and the butler's expression was also very interesting. He took several breaths before stammering. Master. It's bad. Young master. Young master's arms and legs were broken, and all the bones in his body were crushed. I don't know who sent him back and dumped him directly at the doorstep. And, there's even worse news. As the butler spoke, his expression became more panicked, and he almost couldn't breathe. He couldn't continue. What's going on? Li Shi stood up suddenly, then he felt dizzy and almost collapsed to the ground. The sons around him quickly supported Li Shi. Li He's face turned black at this time, and the faces of the other middle-aged men were not looking good either. What's wrong? What happened? Tell me now. Li He looked at the housekeeper's terrified face and twitching mouth, and couldn't help but yell. This roar woke the butler up. What made them unbelievable was that the butler's entire body was shaking. Yes, it was the young master who teamed up with the Amba family to attack the Dragon General. Dragon General. Several people looked at each other, their hearts skipped a beat, and they hurriedly continued to ask. Which Dragon General is it? It's War God Yi, the 5-star Dragon General Yi Longjiang. The butler shouted almost at the top of his lungs, his face and back were covered in cold sweat, and he felt a tremor in his heart. But when he heard this name, Li Shi shuddered again and remembered it instantly. This is no ordinary person. He is the youngest dragon general in the whole of China and holds the highest rank in the entire Yanhuang military. There are also various legends about Yi Xian, which are still vivid in everyone's mind even today. That man, who was as strong as a god, once guarded the southern border with just a sword. What courage and heroism he had! He was a killing god who kept those villains awake all night. When Li Shi thought of this, his pupils suddenly contracted, filled with fear that seeped from the depths of his soul. Master, the Amba family is now finished, completely finished. The entire family was completely slaughtered and annihilated, and no one in the upper echelons of the southern three lands dared to intervene. When Li Shi heard this, he felt a sharp pain in his heart, rolled his eyes, and almost fell down again. At this time, Li's men had already walked in, carrying the bloody Li Yanji, and slowly placed him on the ground. Li Yanji's current state of misery is simply beyond description. All the bones in his body were crushed by Tang Hao. Although he is not dead yet, he has completely become a disabled person. But his father Li He, who loves his son so much, can't tolerate too much, and said while looking at Li Shi. Father! Let's get Yanji to the doctor right away. Li He couldn't bear to look at his son again at this moment. It was too tragic. Father, please say something. If you don't save Yanji, he will die. Confused. But Li Shi's eyes were filled with boundless anger, and he looked at Li He and shouted angrily. Do you know why General Yi Long wanted to wipe out the Amba family but send this unworthy descendant back? At this time, Li Shi glanced indifferently at Li Yanji, who was almost unconscious, and said in a decisive tone. Even a fool can see that Yi Long is trying to test the attitude of our Li family towards this matter. If our Li family saves him, it means that this is our idea. Think about the Amba family that has already stepped into the dust of history. If we save this guy now, our entire family will be completely wiped out by Yi Long's words, just like the Amba family. The more Li Shi spoke, the angrier he became. He never thought that this young man like Li Yanji would provoke Yi Xian. This was not just courting death, but also dragging the entire family into trouble. It is not easy for the Li family to sit in the position they have today. If they make a wrong move, it would be like going back to the time before liberation. It would be unclear whether this family would still exist in the world. Besides, he acted on his own and brought about such a disaster. I have now decided as the head of the family to expel Li Yinji from the family. He is no longer a member of our Li family. Li He had a look of despair on his face at this time. He wanted to go forward to check on Li Heji's injuries, but was stopped by Li Shi. Stop. Li Shi's eyes were cold at this time. He looked at Li He with an expression of disappointment and said seriously, "Everyone, don't touch him, otherwise, your fate will be the same as his and you will be kicked out of my Li family." Seeing this, no one dared to say anything, because they all knew the old man's temper. Now, let alone going to see Li Yinji, I felt as if my feet were nailed dead and I couldn't move at all. Li Yinji's father, Li He, was even more horrified at this time. His son, who was already covered in blood and had difficulty breathing, had actually caused such a terrible disaster. Now he doesn't blame his father for being cruel. If this matter is not handled properly, the entire Li family will be buried with his son. By the way, where is General Yi Long now? Li Shi then looked at the trembling butler beside him, his tone mixed with powerlessness and fear. "Call all the senior members of the Li family, we have to go and apologize together." "Master, Yi Long has him, he is still in Nansan." The butler had never seen Li Shiyu so excited. His pupils were dull and he answered woodenly. "All right. Let's go now. All the senior executives, go." Li Shi nodded, glanced at Li He and others, and walked out first. After hesitating for a while, everyone hurriedly followed him out, leaving only Li He standing beside the panting Li Yinji. Father, I." Li Yinji also woke up briefly at this time, looking at his father in despair, wanting to say something, but he felt as if his body was splitting in pain with every word he spoke. What a rebellious son! Li He cursed helplessly, then suddenly turned around and walked outside. In the huge inner hall of the Li family, only Li Yinji was left lying there, his life force fading away bit by bit. But old man Li surely had spoken, so even so, no one dared to touch him. They could only let him lie here as if no one saw him. Li Yinji only felt that his blood was flowing slowly, the corners of his mouth were getting paler and paler, his eyes soon became blurred, and slowly, even his consciousness was gradually dissipating. At this moment, in his lifeless eyes, there was no longer the arrogance and domineering attitude he once had as the eldest son of one of the 8 major Chinese families. Instead, there was only endless regret and pain. He didn't know why he was so greedy, why he took the risk even though he knew Yi Xian's identity, why he was so self-righteous and thought he could deal with Yi Xian from outside. But at this point, regret was of no use at all. He could only lie there motionless and watch his own death. Ah! At the end, Li Yinji, who had been lying on the ground silently, suddenly seemed to have a last burst of light and was struggling violently. But this did not last long. As his worn and hoarse throat let out a final howl, Li Yinji rolled his eyes and died instantly. Not far away, a figure saw the situation here, but a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. As expected of one of the 8 great families, they are truly heartless. As he spoke, the figure took out his phone and dialed the number. Brother Yi, the person has been sent here. It seems that the Li family is indeed unaware of this matter. At the same time, Yi Xian, who was in the car, listened to the message on the phone and nodded indifferently. Okay, I got it. After saying that, Yi Xian hung up the phone and went back with the little girls. After returning, the little girls stretched themselves, looked somewhat dissatisfied, rubbed their stomachs, and looked at Yi Xian pitifully. Dad, we're hungry. Yeah, Dad, there's nothing to eat at this party. Hey, Dad, I still want to eat yesterday's mashed potatoes. Yi Xian looked at the little guys whose stomachs were growling like greedy cats, and nodded with a smile. Are you hungry? Dad will cook for you right away. After agreeing, Yi Xian remembered something and looked at the table in the living room. By the way, your sister Long Fei got you some fun puzzles, play with them first. Puzzle. Hearing that there was something fun to do, the little ones immediately perked up and ran to the table, where they saw several boxes of beautifully arranged puzzles. Hey, now it's fun. Yi Jing smiled foolishly, and couldn't wait to open a puzzle, then nodded with a smile. Immediately, several little girls started playing puzzles in the living room enthusiastically. They looked so cute with their meticulousness. They bit their fingers and pouted their lips from time to time. The puzzle that Long Fei prepared for them was still a bit difficult. Okay, time to eat. Not long after, Yi Xian prepared the meal. The little guys then came to their senses, feeling extremely hungry, so they put down the half-finished puzzle and ran to the dining table. You little guys, why do you eat so fast? Wang Xinyao looked at the little girls who were eating voraciously with a displeased look and asked in some surprise. Mom, we still have some puzzle pieces to put together. Yi, she said in a baby voice with a few grains of rice still on the corners of her mouth. The puzzle that Sister Long Fei gave us is a little difficult, so we have to hurry. It's okay, eat slowly, Dad will fight with you guys later. Yi Xian rubbed Xiaoxi's little face lovingly and gently picked away the rice grains stuck to the corners of her mouth. Good. The little guys nodded obediently and ate slower. After dinner, Wang Xinyao went to clean up the dishes, while Yi Xian took a few little girls to continue doing jigsaw puzzles in the living room. Girls, remember this, jigsaw puzzles are a test of patience. We'd better sort them first so that it will be easier to complete the subsequent work. While giving instructions, Yi Xian flipped over the letters on the back of the puzzle pieces and spoke to the little ones. See, we have to classify them according to the letters, and then start with the right-angled sides or the characteristic puzzle pieces. The little girls listened very carefully, and then they realized that their method just now was really clumsy. Then, under Yi Xian's guidance and companionship, the little guys quickly mastered the trick and the progress of the puzzle became much faster. But by the time the little ones finished the puzzle, a long time had passed. Yi Xian didn't let the little girls continue to fight, as it was not good for their eyes. Then he talked to them about some relevant financial knowledge. In this way, time went on until very late, and Long Fei finally came back. Oh. I'm so tired today. Long Fei stretched and let out a breath. But we finally conquered the territory. Having said that, Long Fei's face was full of smiles. Seeing the little ones looking at her strangely, she went up to rub their chubby little faces. How about it? Do you like the puzzle that your sister prepared for you? I like it. Thank you, sis. The little ones also smiled sweetly. After spending these few days together, they became much closer to Long Fei. By the way, let me show you a treasure. Long Fei's eyes moved slightly, and he smiled and pulled the little guys to the window. Sister Long Fei, what good stuff is this? Yi Zi bit her fingers in confusion, thinking they were going to set off fireworks. Hey, look outside. This is the kingdom that your sister long conquered for you. Chapter 155 Kneeling. Ah. Several little guys stared out the window blankly, pouting their lips as they observed carefully. Wang Xinyao and Yi Xian looked at each other and smiled. The little guys still looked like they didn't quite understand what Long Fei was talking about. Come on. You have already seen this little piece of land. Where have you forgotten the pattern I taught you? Yi Xian chuckled and looked at Long Fei unhappily. Long Fei was silent for a while, stuck out her tongue at Yi Xian, and pulled a few little girls to continue playing the puzzle. After playing for a while, it wasn't too early anymore, so everyone packed up and went to bed. Of course, even Long Fei, who had built a kingdom for the little guys, still slept alone today, and the little guys were still pestering Yi Xian. Early the next morning, after Long Fei woke up, he left first. Not long after, Yi Xian and the others woke up. The little guys walked around the house but couldn't find any trace of Long Fei. Dad! Sister Long Fei is leaving. Yi Xian looked at the little guys who looked a little lost, smiled, and nodded. Okay, let's eat first. After that, Dad will take you out for tea and a walk. Okay. The little guys nodded obediently and were taken by Wang Xinyao to wash up. Yi Xian went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast for everyone. After dinner, Yi Xian and Wang Xinyao took a few maids out and came to the tea house they had been to before. When they went in, they saw Gao Meng, Lu Meng, and others were still inside. Hey! Xinyao! You're here too. Come and sit down. As soon as they saw Yi Xian and his family coming, several people hurriedly stood up and warmly welcomed Yi Xian and Wang Xinyao over, and everyone sat together to drink tea. Why are you guys here for tea so early? Aren't you busy lately? Wang Xinyao looked at Lu Meng and others curiously. It was still a long way from noon. Well. Hearing this, Lu Meng sighed and shook his head helplessly. The South Three Land has been in too much chaos lately. We dare not go out to get busy. So, we can only stay out of the spotlight here for now. Hearing this, Wang Xinyao was even more surprised, but the frightened looks of Lu Meng and others did not seem to be joking. Xinyao, you may not know this yet. The Amba family, one of the 4 major families in the South Three Lands, has been destroyed. I heard that this was because the eldest young master of their Amba family teamed up with the young master of our Chinese Li family to offend the wrong people, which led to the extermination of the entire Amba family, uprooting them. I heard that even the top leaders in the 3 southern regions don't dare to intervene in this matter, and several major underground leaders have also begun to be mobilized. Afterwards, the Huayang Chamber of Commerce began to acquire territory, and those families and noble families that were originally opponents were all silent, and even the top leaders stopped fighting. Looking at the current situation, I'm afraid the entire South 3 regions will have to be reshuffled. Wang Xinyao listened to the whole story and looked at Lu Meng's serious expression, and pretended to be surprised. But she didn't know what to say, so she looked at Yi Xian on the other side. Yi Xian was playing with a few little guys at this time, laughing and giggling. The whole scene was intimate and peaceful. You know, this was all caused by Yi Xian, but now he looks like a super dad. At this moment, Wang Xinyao looked at Yi Xian with a dazed look in her eyes, and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. Lu Meng and a few other girls looked at the way Wang Xinyao looked at Yi Xian, which was full of love at this moment. They were instantly touched by the sweetness and were willing to eat this bite of dog food. By the way, Xinyao, what does your husband do? Lu Meng smiled gently and patted Wang Xinyao on the shoulder. This, I don't know how to put it. Wang Xinyao couldn't help but look embarrassed when she heard this. She really didn't know how to describe this matter. You're not going to be unemployed at home, are you? Several girls looked at Wang Xinyao's embarrassment and murmured. Xinyao, this won't do. Yeah, how can I not find a job? You can't be a vagrant anyway. Lu Meng took Wang Xinyao's hand, became serious, and spoke earnestly. Xinyao, listen to me. I know you and your wife have a good relationship, but after all, a man still needs to have a career. Otherwise, these 5 little darlings can't all rely on you alone. Wang Xinyao smiled bitterly and shook her head, but she didn't know what to say. She felt so awkward at the moment. At this moment, outside the tea garden, Li Shi and all the senior executives of the Li family had gathered and were standing outside the tea garden. Master, Mr. Yi is in there. We have all heard about it. One of the family leaders walked up to Li Shi respectfully and asked softly. By the way, old man, are we going to go in and pay him a visit? Or? Li Shi looked at the senior executives next to him, shook his head helplessly, but knelt down without any hesitation. For a moment, the senior executives nearby were simply dumbfounded. When had they ever seen the old man like this? The head of the Li family, one of the top 8 families in China, was kneeling at the gate of a tea garden in a foreign country. Unless someone has seen this kind of thing, if you tell others about it, no one with an IQ above 20 will believe it is true. But while the top executives were surprised, they also knew very well in their hearts that the person inside was someone they could not afford to offend. The purpose of their coming to the Nansan area was not anything else but to apologize. This was for the survival of their family. But no matter what, this is still too humiliating. Although the top leaders know that they have to follow suit, they are still struggling with their thoughts. As high-ranking children of the 8 major families, they are not without their own dignity, but they have never thought that they will have you every day. Ahem. Mr. Li Shi looked at the people behind him with some hesitation. He didn't say anything, but just coughed softly. All of a sudden, these senior executives reacted instantly. There was no time for them to make a decision or struggle, and they all knelt down in unison. For a moment, a crowd of people knelt at the entrance of the tea garden. Chapter 156. We come to ask for punishment. The staff inside the tea garden were also confused when they saw the situation outside. Why were all these people kneeling at the entrance of the tea garden for no reason? But when they saw that these people were well dressed and elegant, the staff didn't waste any time and hurried in to find the boss Gao Meng. Boss, something bad has happened. There is a large group of people outside the door. They are all Chinese, but they are all kneeling on the ground. When Gao Meng heard this, he was also quite shocked. His brows immediately frowned and he ran out quickly. The other students looked at each other and ran out as well. Wang Xinyao was also surprised. Seeing that Yi Xian was still taking care of the girls, she followed him out with peace of mind, wanting to see what was going on. What does this mean? When they got outside, they suddenly saw an incredible scene. This group of people were dressed in suits and looked very noble. It was obvious that they were of high status. Such an extraordinary temperament and the aura he exudes are definitely not that of an ordinary person. But these people were all kneeling here at this moment, with their heads hung, unable to raise their heads at all. Everyone, what's wrong with you? When Gao Meng saw this scene, his legs suddenly went weak and he was stunned. He immediately stepped forward and asked, "Why are you kneeling at the entrance of my tea garden? Please stand up quickly. I can't bear it." But no matter what Gao Meng said, these people remained silent and just knelt there without moving. They had been kneeling for a while at this time. When they saw this group of people coming out, they looked up slightly, wanting to see if Yi Xian had come out. But as soon as these people raised their heads, Lu Meng shuddered and the expression on his face suddenly changed. Among these people, she could at least guarantee that she knew the old man in front of her. When he and his boss attended a top pharmaceutical industry banquet, it was this man who spoke eloquently on the stage about the development and prospects of the industry. His insights were profound and to the point. At that time, he and her father could only watch. At that time, her father excitedly told him that this person was a leading figure who was like the ceiling of the entire Chinese pharmaceutical industry. It was none other than the old man of the Li family, Mr. Li Shirley. Lu Meng's pupils trembled, and she covered her mouth in disbelief. Such a high and mighty figure was now kneeling in front of her. What on earth was going on? This completely shattered her three views. It was still early in the tea garden. Apart from her classmates, there were only Wang Xinyao's husband and daughters. There were no outsiders. People of their status are kneeling here, but to whom are they kneeling? The people nearby were staring at each other in confusion, unable to understand the cause of this matter. They looked at Lu Meng, only to find that Lu Meng had a dazed look on his face, with shock in his eyes like the ocean. "Lu Meng, what's wrong? Do you know what's going on?" When they saw Lu Meng like this, they immediately knew what Lu Meng knew. Lu Meng hesitated, then pulled a few girls behind him, and then spoke word by word while breathing heavily. I know that old man. He is the old man of the Li family, and the Li family is the leader in China's medical industry. And those people behind him all look like high-ranking members of the Li family. They are definitely not simple characters. After hearing this, everyone was so surprised that they couldn't express it in words. Their minds went blank and they couldn't understand why they had encountered such a thing. As things developed to this point, several people even had an illusion that this was not reality, but just a bizarre dream. Otherwise, how could ordinary businessmen like them meet a big shot like Mr. Li from the Li family? What's more, they were kneeling on the ground and refused to get up. Gao Meng, who was standing by, also heard these words and felt her scalp bursting. Even if a group of people just came and knelt at the door of her tea garden, it was already unbelievable enough. Moreover, among these people kneeling in front of him, any one of them had an unimaginably noble status. It was hard to accept just one of them, let alone a group of them. A group of people like this kneeling at the entrance of my tea garden, what is going on? Gao Meng had a bitter smile on her face at this time. This was really too tricky for a woman like her who simply opened a tea garden. "Mr. Li, please get up quickly." However, Gao Meng couldn't just let these people kneel down all the time, otherwise what would happen would happen. She had no idea, so she gritted her teeth and walked forward. At this time, Li Shi heard someone calling his name. He suddenly raised his head, looked at Gao Meng in front of him, and asked hurriedly, "Is this Mr. Yi asking us to get up?" Li Shi's voice was hoarse, and his eyes were filled with hope and joy. If it was really Mr. Yi who asked them to get up, it would mean that Yi Xian had forgiven them. Ah! Seeing the old man's expression, Gao Meng and everyone around him were stunned. "Mr. Yi?" When they heard that the person's surname was Yi, they all trembled and their heartbeats suddenly increased rapidly. Among them, there seems to be no one else with the surname Yi except Wang Xinyao's husband Yi Xian. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help swallowing, and then they heard the sound of children playing and laughing behind them. At this time, Yi Xian was holding Yi Xia and Yi Shi in his arms, standing by the window of the tea garden watching. When everyone heard the sound, they widened their eyes and looked over, only to see Yi Xian slowly walking out while playing with a few little girls. If they are willing to kneel, let them kneel. There is no need to ask them to stand up. The people from the Li family trembled when they heard the voice, and looked up at Yi Xian. Wang Xinyao immediately understood what came over. She walked over to Yi Xian with a smile and called the little guys over. "Girls, let's go in and play. Daddy wants to talk to these uncles." Good. Although the little girls were puzzled as to why the people from the Li family were kneeling on the ground, when they heard Wang Xinyao say this, they obediently followed her into the tea garden. Old Master Li Shi looked at Yi Xian, who had an indifferent expression in front of him. His old eyes were cloudy and weak, and he spoke to Yi Xian with full of guilt and respect. "Mr. Yi, this time it was our Li family's negligence, but I hope you will listen to my explanation. We just found out that Li Yinji, this unworthy descendant, has teamed up with the Yamba family to plot against you. We really didn't know about it before. Old Master Li Shi became more and more excited as he spoke. Seeing that Yi Xian still didn't speak, he immediately kowtowed, still begging. Mr. Yi, we really didn't know. Now that Li Yinji is dead, please give our Li family a chance to live. Boom! In an instant, Wang Xinyao's classmates were all stunned, and immediately realized that Yi Xian was the one who destroyed the Yamba family. What is funny is that they actually thought Yi Xian was a full-time dad with no career who relied on Wang Xinyao's work. Now seeing this scene, I realize how ridiculous and naive my thoughts were just now. If this is not considered a successful career, I'm afraid no one in this world can be considered to have achieved such an accomplishment. Oh my god! What did we just talk about? Wang Xinyao's husband is too powerful. What kind of deity is this that can make Mr. Li like this? Several girls looked at each other, and you looked at me, my mind was still confused. The husband of Wang Xinyao, who was originally my college classmate, turned out to be such a person. He was a person in power who could decide other people's life and death with just a few words. After not seeing each other for many years, none of them had expected that there was such a gap between them. Now let us not talk about what expression Yi Xian had. Even looking at Wang Xinyao, she felt a little strange. At this time, Yi Xian was looking at the group of people kneeling on the ground, then he turned his head and glanced indifferently at Li Shi in front of him. How about this, from today on, I will have someone take over all of your Li family's businesses. Do you have any objections? Chapter 157 Royal Invitation. Yi Xian's voice was low, and although still in a negotiable tone, all the Li family members knew that since Yi Xian had spoken, it was a done deal. In an instant, everyone in the Li family trembled and looked as pale as death, as if their whole world had collapsed. There doesn't seem to be much difference between taking over their family and taking their lives. After all, it's not just 1 or 2 generations' hard work that has brought the Li family to its current size, it's the result of countless generations' efforts. If their ancestors knew about this, wouldn't they crawl out of the ground and strangle them to death? What's more, this will directly make them lose everything they have, the so-called wealth, status, power. In this way, they will have nothing, but it is always easier to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. If this is the outcome, it would be better to kill them. Thinking of this, the family leaders all looked embarrassed. Although they were unhappy, they did not dare to refute. After all, the Yamba family's previous experience is still there, so what can they do? For a moment, the senior executives all looked at Li Shi. After all, Li Shi was the head of the family, and Li Shi had to make the decision on this matter. But at this moment, Li Shi seemed to have aged dozens of years in an instant. His already old face now looked like the dry and yellowed bark of an old tree. After a long silence, Li Shi's eyes trembled. He finally lowered his head and spoke to Yi Xian blankly. Thank you, Mr. Yi. After saying this, Li Shi felt as if his heart was bleeding, but he was helpless. If they do not agree to Mr. Yi's request, the consequences for their Li family will probably not be much better than that of the Yamba family that has already turned to dust. The senior executives behind him also closed their eyes in pain at this time, cursing Li Yinji in their hearts. Why did they have to offend such a person when there were so many other people to offend? To deal with such a person, let alone their Li family, even the other families in the 8 major families, what can they do? When Gao Meng, Lu Meng, and others saw this scene, they were also dumbfounded, and their heads were buzzing. They thought they had heard it wrong and couldn't believe that this was true. The other party actually agreed to this. To give away a family's wealth, this is something that can actually be tolerated. Besides, this is not just an ordinary family, it is the overlord of the medical field. I believe that Mr. Li Shi, as the patriarch of the Li family, knows best how many interests are involved. At this point, they just wanted to save themselves a way out and directly handed over such a huge family to others. Hiss. The more they thought about it, the more unbelievable it became. They looked at Yi Xian again. As for this man, they could only feel shock in their hearts, boundless shock. What kind of identity is this person? Not only can he make these people kneel down for a long time, but he also makes the Li family swallow their anger. At this time, the way they looked at Yi Xian changed, from admiration at the beginning to respect at this moment. Such a person, let alone in the barbaric land of the southern 3 regions, even in the vast China, I am afraid you won't find another one. At this moment, a luxury car slowly drove towards the side, attracting everyone's attention. This is a retro-styled Maybach. The body of the car is full of high-end texture. It seems abrupt with everything around it, but it actually creates a wonderful harmony. The Maybach stopped and a man in a suit got out. The man had an exotic face and was quite handsome. After slightly adjusting his tie on his chest, he looked at Yi Xian standing at the entrance of the tea garden and quickly changed his expressionless face into an extremely flattering smile. The man was none other than the secretary who had delivered the message to the Amba family before. At this time, the man quickly came to Yi Xian, bowed respectfully first, and then smiled politely. "Hello, Mr. Yi. I am here today on behalf of the royal family to invite you to a gathering. I wonder if you would be so kind as to come." Speaking of this man, although he only holds a secretary position, he serves the top leaders in the 3 southern regions after all, so he can be considered to have some power. But when the secretary faced Yi Xian at this moment, he put aside all his previous dignity and pride. All he had in his eyes was fear from deep in his heart and awe that could not be expressed in words. "Let me ask first." Yi Xian answered calmly, then turned around and waved to the little guys in the tea garden with a smile. "Girls, come here." "Good." When the little ones saw that it was Yi Xian calling them, they immediately came over hurriedly. "Dad, are you done talking about your business?" Yi Shi held Yi Xian's big hand and asked in a baby voice. "Yeah, it's okay." Yi Xian smiled and rubbed the little guy's face, then squatted down and asked lovingly. "Do you want to go to the palace for a visit?" "If you want to go, let's go now." The Imperial Palace. When the little ones heard the word palace, they immediately remembered the princess's castle in fairy tales. They immediately became interested and clamored to go there. "Dad, is this the real palace?" "We want to go." "Great, we can go to the palace now." "Dad, let's go now." "I'll go call Mom." After the little guys agreed, they went in and pulled Wang Xinyao out, still muttering about their imaginary palace. "Well, let's go." Yi Xian agreed, then smiled and led Wang Xinyao and a few little girls forward. "Lu Meng. Gao Meng. We're leaving first. We'll talk next time." Wang Xinyao remembered the classmates behind her and quickly turned around to say hello. Okay. Goodbye, Xinyao." Lu Meng and the others hesitated, forced a smile, and waved to Wang Xinyao. At this moment, they are still in deep shock. Especially when someone from the royal family came to invite Yi Xian and the others just now, Lu Meng and the others were stunned. Even the royal family sent someone to invite them. What is the identity of this Yi Xian? Several girls' minds were suddenly filled with all kinds of thoughts and guesses, but they felt as if their imaginations were imprisoned and they couldn't think clearly. Too powerful. Too domineering. A Chinese man brought his family to the southern 3 places alone, and was able to destroy the huge Amba family in a snap. This shows that Yi Xian has at least a powerful and mysterious force under his command, which is unknown to them and is feared by countless people. But that's not all. Now even the royal family has come personally to invite Yi Xian, which further confirms their previous guess. Well, aren't the ants going together? The little guy walked happily around Yi Xian and Wang Xinyao, but saw Lu Meng, Gao Meng and others still standing there in a daze, and asked in confusion. No. We're not going, kid. It's okay, little ones, just go ahead, the aunties still have things to do. We're really fine, go and have fun. Lu Meng and the others smiled awkwardly and waved at the little girls. After all, this was not the place they should go. This is the royal family. How can they, ordinary people and outsiders, possibly go there? At that moment, the secretary here looked at this scene, his eyes turned slightly, and said to Yi Xian respectfully. "Mr. Yi, the emperor has also told me that you can bring your friends with you, there is no problem. The emperor even said that your friends are also His Majesty's guests of honor, so we have to entertain them with care." When Lu Meng and the others heard this, they looked at the Li family members who were still kneeling on the ground. The corners of their mouths twitched suddenly, and their brains went blank. What a great honor! The royal family was not a place that ordinary people could go to. Not only did the emperor personally send someone to invite them, but he also invited them alone. This was too outrageous. After all, they are just ordinary people. If they were put on the street, no one would even look at them twice. Yet they can be treated like this. Just this alone is enough to explain the emperor's attitude towards Yi Xian. The Li family was in great grief at this time. They were depressed and lost, and at the same time, they were deeply shocked. Well, you are all Xinyao's good friends, and of course you are my friends too. Yi Xian smiled lightly and turned around to look at Lu Meng and the others. If you have time, then let's go together. It will be more lively if there are more people. Lu Meng and his companions felt like they were in a dream at this moment. Everything was too unreal and they didn't know how to describe their feelings at all. Thank you, Mr. Yi. Gao Meng immediately thanked Yi Xian and followed carefully. Since Yi Xian said so, he was also giving them face. Why would they refuse it? Great! The aunties are here too. The little guys were very excited and pulled Lu Meng and a few other girls forward. Wang Xinyao also followed behind with a smile, walking forward with Yi Xian. Yi Xian glanced at the people from the Li family, walked around them directly, and left without saying a word. Without Yi Xian's permission, Li Shik didn't dare to stand up on his own initiative, and the same went for the top executives. After Yi Xian and his group left, a long while passed before the Li family's senior members plucked up their courage, quickly gathered around the old man and helped him up. Master, are we about to hand over the Li family to you? Yes, old man, this is the hard work of countless generations of our Li family's ancestors. Old man, why don't we go talk to Mr. Yi again? Even if it costs a little more money, it's fine. Taking over us is no different from destroying us. The top executives couldn't accept it for a moment. This was really too much. They couldn't imagine that everything they had was about to disappear. Li Shi's eyes were cloudy and old at this moment. He no longer had the sharp brilliance that he used to exude when he was the patriarch of the Li family. At this moment, he was so negative and lifeless, as if half of his body was buried in the ground. Well, Li Shi had just stood up and heard the senior executives talking at once. He suddenly felt weak all over and felt dizzy. He almost collapsed. Don't think about it, go back and pack your things, and hand over all your property. Li Shi's voice was low and without a trace of emotion. After all, these so-called wealth and industries had nothing to do with him now. Master, this. Although the senior executives knew that the facts could not be changed, they were still somewhat hesitant. They wanted to say something but felt like they couldn't say anything. Okay, I know you feel bad, but please think about the ending of the Amba family. If you don't want to end up like them, just do as I say. Li Shi looked at the senior executives with guilt. These were all the heroes who had made great contributions to the various industries of the Li family. But now, because of one person's gains and losses, all these hard-earned things are about to be lost. Well, everyone sighed upon hearing this and reluctantly accepted this outcome, which was not the worst but was not much different. At that moment, everyone was extremely angry with Li Yinji. They asked him to go to the southern three places to establish diplomatic relations and cooperation with the Amba family, but ended up causing this mess. The most infuriating thing is that Li Yinji knew Yi Xian's identity, but still dared to provoke him. This would be a joke if anyone knew about it. This guy was dead, but now such consequences will befall every one of them. Then, everyone in the Li family left in dismay. They were no longer willing to stay in this southern land for a second, nor did they want to face everything they would face if they returned to China. At the same time, Yi Xian in the car took out his mobile phone and called Sun Ji. Master, what's wrong? After answering the phone, Sun Ji asked respectfully, but his tone sounded a little tired. How's it going? Have you found the century-old medicine? Yi Xian smiled slightly, knowing that Sun Ji had been busy recently. Oh, don't say it, master. Although there has been some progress, it is still far from what I expected. Sun Ji was also helpless. This time, the harvest could not be said to be in vain, but there was no substantial gain either. Okay, now put aside what you are doing and return home. I have something important for you to do. Master, please speak. When Sun Ji heard Yi Xian say this, he immediately perked up and his tone became serious. It's okay, you don't have to be so nervous. You're just going to take over the Li family's business, so this part is more suitable for you. Yi Xian said this with a smile, as if taking over the Li family was something he had expected, and he spoke very calmly. Okay, master, I got it. When Sun Ji heard this, he was stunned at first, but then he understood what was going on and nodded heavily. Okay, I'll leave it to you then. After finishing his instructions, Yi Xian hung up the phone. The little girls next to him leaned against the car window, admiring the scenery outside without blinking. As the vehicle moved forward, the surrounding scenery began to become wide and beautiful, with green grass and lakes everywhere, and the road became smoother and smoother. This road leading to the palace is incomparable to other roads in the southern three areas. It has beautiful scenery and is clean and clear. Ah! It's so beautiful here. Yi Shi looked at the sparkling lake outside the window, opened her mouth wide, and was also very excited. At this time, at the gate of the palace, the emperor and a group of royal high-ranking officials were standing at the door, waiting respectfully. The emperor is an old man, wearing a loose robe that is light but made of excellent material. He looks like an old man with white hair and a kind face. The senior executives around him also looked extraordinary and dignified. The guards at the palace gate looked at the emperor and the senior officials in confusion, having no idea what was going on. You have to know that this is the emperor after all, the most honorable existence in the three southern lands. Now, in the rising sun, he is actually standing at the door in person. What shocked them even more was that the emperor always looked dignified, but at this moment he was standing so respectfully at the door, obviously waiting for someone. But who is this person, and who is worthy of the emperor's waiting? Chapter 158 Master, what else do you have? What's going on? Is the emperor waiting for someone? I was stunned too. Not only the emperor, but all the high-ranking officials of the royal family were here. Oh my God! I've never seen such a grand scene before. Who are they waiting for? The guards stared at each other in confusion, unable to figure out what was going on. My lord, the sun is so strong right now, how about I ask someone to hold an umbrella for you? A senior official beside the emperor was also sweating from the sun and smiled at the emperor in a flattering manner. Need not. But the emperor flatly rejected the high-ranking official and spoke to him in a low voice. You know who we are waiting for this time. We can't do anything fancy in front of him. As the emperor spoke, he was also feeling the scorching heat from the sun, but he still gritted his teeth and persevered. The senior officials did not say anything upon seeing this. After all, the emperor was right. This time, this was an extremely distinguished guest. Cheer up, everyone. When Mr. Yi comes later, be enthusiastic and don't be listless. Yes. After the emperor gave instructions to the high-ranking officials around him, he stopped talking and waited patiently. Yi Xian and the others drove at a leisurely pace and soon arrived at their destination. After everyone got off the car, they arrived at the gate of the palace. Wow! This place is so luxurious. As soon as the little guys got off the car, they were attracted by the palace in front of them. They excitedly ran around the square in front of the palace, watching the scenery around them. Speaking of this palace, it can be said to be magnificent and magnificent. There are two huge white elephant statues at the door, and a large fountain carved from gold and jade in the middle. In the center of the fountain is an even more magnificent statue of a god. These statues and fountains are all made of gold and jade, even the floor tiles beneath everyone's feet are carved from pure gold. Then he looked towards the gate of the imperial palace. On the arched building, ancient and mysterious characters were engraved. It was also made of white marble. It was crystal clear and seemed as if it was made by nature. Inside the gate, majestic buildings rise from the ground, and there is even an underground river extending from it. Even in this hot summer, you can feel a cool breeze inside this palace. As soon as everyone got off the car, the emperor and others at the door noticed it and trembled. The emperor was even more excited. He hurried over in 2 steps and greeted Yi Xian respectfully. Mr. Yi, you are here. Yi Xian looked at the emperor who was walking towards him and nodded slightly. Lu Meng and others who were standing by had just gotten off the car when they saw this incredible scene. This extremely noble emperor actually came forward to greet Yi Xian so respectfully and enthusiastically. Today's wave after wave of shocks were hard for them to accept. Not only did the emperor invite Yi Xian and others to come, but he actually made them stand at the door waiting for so long. Now they looked at Yi Xian as if they were looking at a god. Even if his identity was not ordinary, it would not be necessary for the emperor of the 3 southern lands to be treated like this. Mr. Yi, it's extremely hot here, please come in. The emperor still smiled flatteringly and hurriedly invited Yi Xian and others in. Good. Yi Xian nodded, then waved to the little guys behind him. Girls, let's go in. Good. Hearing Yi Xian's call, several little kids who were still running in the square hurried over, took Yi Xian's hand and walked in. Wang Xinyao also walked beside Yi Xian with a smile, and the family walked into the palace happily. Gao Meng, Lu Meng and others were following behind, and were also surprised to see that the emperor was following Yi Xian with his head bowed, introducing him as he walked, with an expression that was extremely respectful. The other senior executives also walked beside them, asking about their well-being and being very respectful. This is really unreal. These are high-ranking members of the royal family. The 2 of them walked tremblingly behind, no longer daring to guess about Yi Xian's identity, because they were afraid that with their imagination, they would not be able to reach it. The group walked leisurely into the palace, which was even more gorgeous and precious. Everything was luxurious and rich, which made people feel astonished at the sight and shocked at the hearing. Soon, under the leadership of the emperor, everyone walked into a large reception room, which had been decorated in advance and was filled with hot tea and cakes, and musicians were playing music on the side. "Mr. Yi, please take a seat." The emperor bowed and invited Yi Xian to the main seat, and then he slowly took his seat. "Mr. Yi, this is our special snowskin pastry, specially prepared for you." The emperor personally poured tea for Yi Xian while looking at the pastries on the table. "Dad, can I eat this?" Several little girls looked at the crystal clear snacks on the table and looked at Yi Xian expectantly. "Of course you can, ladies, please help yourself. If you need anything else, just let me know. Don't be polite. Just treat this place as your own home." The emperor knew that these little ones were Yi Xian's daughters, and he immediately smiled kindly. "Thank you, Grandpa." After thanking the emperor, the little guys grabbed the cakes on the golden plate and savored them slowly. Lu Meng and the others' jaws almost dropped, their eyelids twitching wildly. This emperor really knows how to talk, he even talks about this as if it were his own home. "Mr. Yi, have some tea." After the emperor poured tea for Yi Xian, he stood up respectfully and raised the teacup in his hand. "Mr. Yi, you have come to this place in Nansan. As the host, I am sorry for not welcoming you. Please let me drink tea instead of wine first." After the emperor finished speaking, he drank the tea in the cup in one gulp. "No problem." Yi Xian waved his hand, picked up the teacup and took a sip, then said with a smile, "Your tea is really good, it has a unique flavor." The emperor was immediately flattered and quickly replied respectfully, "As long as Mr. Yi likes it." At this moment, everyone around could see that the emperor not only respected Yi Xian, but even had a hint of fear in his heart. Especially Lu Meng and others, they could see clearly at this moment that this almighty emperor had no temper at all in front of Yi Xian. Afterwards, everyone sat down and rested for a while, and the emperor personally led everyone to visit the palace. The emperor, who was usually noble, became a little tour guide at this time, introducing the palace to Yi Xian and others, while his footsteps always followed behind Yi Xian and he did not dare to walk in front. Wow! An elephant! At this time, everyone walked into the manor in the palace. In this manor of nearly hundreds of acres, there were several elephants wandering around inside, which immediately attracted the attention of several little girls. "Dad, these elephants are so beautiful. Can we take pictures with the elephants? They look much bigger than they do on TV." The little guys became excited at this time, pulling Yi Xian's clothes, and were full of interest in the elephant. "Mr. Yi, these are the elephants raised in our palace. They have excellent bloodlines and gentle temperaments. If you ladies want to ride on the elephants and take pictures, there is no problem." The emperor on the side understood and said with a smile, "Grandpa, can we really ride an elephant?" Yi Jing blinked and looked at the emperor, already eager to try. "Ah, of course you can. As long as you like it, you can take the elephant home." The emperor smiled kindly and waved to the gardener in the manor. "Bring the elephant over here and let these ladies ride it." "Yes." The gardeners nodded and immediately brought over several elephants. They are so beautiful. As the elephant came closer, the little girls widened their eyes. These royal elephants are not only cleaned up, but also decorated with many luxurious accessories and have wide seats. "Come on, go up, Dad will take a picture of you." Seeing the elephant coming, Yi Xian smiled, rubbed the heads of the little guys, and walked over with them. These elephants were extremely docile. After being led over by the gardener, they just clapped their hands gently and then bent their knees obediently. "It's still so high." "Yeah, how do we get up there?" "If you don't go up, you won't be able to come down." Several little ones pouted their lips. Even if the elephant bent its knees, it was still too high for them. At this time, several gardeners brought ladders, and the little girls nodded, as if they suddenly understood. "Let's go. Let's go up." Yi Xian immediately pulled the little girls towards the ladder and helped them sit on the seats above. The seat was quite wide, and it was more than enough for several little girls to sit on the back of an elephant. However, they still looked a little scared, as they were worried that they would fall off. "Dad, I'm scared." Yi Shi tightly grasped Yi Jing's hand beside her, her little face trembling slightly. "It's okay, it's safe." Yi Xian smiled and comforted Yi Shi. At this time, Wang Xinyao, Lu Meng and others also climbed onto the other elephants. Soon, after getting used to the feeling of being on the elephant's back, the little girls overcame their fear and instead found it very fun, with smiles on their faces becoming brighter and brighter. Lu Meng and his companions were still feeling dazed as they were sitting on the elephant's back. What happened today was already a bit too much for them to handle. Come, look over here, I'll take a picture of you. Yi Xian picked up his phone and said to the girls with a smile. Good. A few girls giggled and looked at Yi Xian's camera, posing in all kinds of funny poses. 1, 2, 3. Eggplant. As the camera shutters clicked, one photo after another was captured amid laughter and joy. Afterwards, Yi Xian took a few photos of Wang Xinyao and others. After playing for a while, everyone reluctantly got off the elephant's back. Finally, when they arrived at a wide staircase in the palace, everyone took a group photo together. Yi Xian and the emperor stood in the middle, Wang Xinyao, the little girl, and the senior royal family members stood beside them. The position where the emperor stood was even half a step behind Yi Xian. After a while, Yi Xian and a few other little ones had their meal in the royal room, and were then respectfully sent back by the emperor. The emperor escorted Yi Xian and others all the way to the door, and then Yi Xian, with a guilty look on his face, apologized. General Yi Long, we really didn't know about the Amba family's affairs. If we knew, we would never let such a thing happen. I hope you can understand. If this incident has any negative impact on you, I am willing to promise you on behalf of the royal family that we are willing to bear all the consequences, as long as you don't take it to heart. The emperor's expression was sincere. When he mentioned the Amba family that had been destroyed, there was a hint of panic in his eyes. He was worried that this matter would make Yi Xian angry. But Yi Xian didn't care about it anymore. After all, the Amba family had become the dust of history. Thank you, General Yi Long, for your generosity. From now on, my door will always be open to you. No matter when you come, we will do our best to entertain you. The emperor then breathed a sigh of relief and bowed respectfully to Yi Xian. Lu Meng and Gao Meng next to them were completely dumbfounded. What on earth was going on? The Amba family was wiped out without leaving even a trace, and yet the emperor is still apologizing for this matter. Surprised, the emperor also escorted Yi Xian and others to the car, and after watching the car leave, he turned around and returned to the palace. In the car, several little ones were holding their mobile phones, looking at the freshly taken photos today, with smiles on their faces. These elephants are so fun. Let's come again next time. Yi Xiao chuckled, he still remembered the elephant in the royal room very clearly. After all, the elephant was extremely docile. He was a little worried when he sat on it at first, but later he felt completely safe. Yeah, and it's really comfortable to sit on the elephant's back and rock back and forth. When Cici first went up, she was so scared that she didn't dare to speak. The girls were flipping through the photos and talking and laughing, and soon they came to the group photo. In this photo, Yi Xian is standing in the center position. He looks straight and has a refined temperament. Hey, the dad in this photo is the most handsome. Dad is simply the most handsome man in the world. Mom is beautiful too. She is the perfect match for handsome dad. Several little girls looked at the photo, praising him endlessly, and their eyes were full of love when they looked at Yi Xian. Lu Meng and others beside him couldn't help sweating as they watched, thinking, how could this not be cool? Even the emperor of the southern three lands had to step back. Afterwards, after arriving at the hotel entrance, Yi Xian took Wang Xinyao and a few little girls out of the car. After saying hello to Lu Meng and others, he returned to the hotel. Here, Lu Meng and others were still in the car. When they thought about what happened today, they were still shocked. I will probably never forget this day. It was so shocking. As Lu Meng spoke, he slumped down in his chair, looking as if he had lost all desire to live. The other girls were in a similar situation. What happened today was constantly challenging their worldview. This Mr. Yi is so amazing, even the emperor respects him so much. Alas, I don't know how Wang Xinyao found such a husband. She is so lucky. Yeah, the point is that the couple looks really loving, and there are these cute little ones. I'm so jealous. The girls in the car smiled bitterly. This was indeed envy from the bottom of their hearts. Back in the hotel, Long Fei was sitting on the sofa in a daze, just like Yi Xian before. They were exactly the same, and there was almost a spider web about to form. Master, where have you been? Why did you take so long? When Long Fei saw Yi Xian and others coming back, she asked Yi Xian in a wrong tone. Sister Long Fei, we went to the palace today and rode elephants. When the little guys saw Long Fei, they rushed up to him with joy and told him about their itinerary for the day. What? Long Fei was stunned for a moment, looking at these little girls and narrowing his eyes in disbelief. You went to the royal family? Are you kidding me? This. How could the royal family let you in so easily? When the little girls saw that Long Fei didn't believe them, they pouted and looked a little unhappy. Sister Long Fei. We have photos. Yi Jing took out his cell phone angrily, then opened the photo and handed it to Long Fei. Long Fei took the photo and looked at it, and was immediately stunned. This was really the Imperial Palace. She has never been to this place. You know, this palace is not a place that ordinary people can enter. Long Fei opened his mouth wide, looking at the photos one by one, riding an elephant, feeding koi, royal dinner. These scenes made Long Fei fall into silence, but after seeing the last photo of Yi Xian standing in the center, he was completely stunned. What can be clearly seen in this photo is that Yi Xian is standing in front of everyone. Even the noble emperor is smiling obsequiously and standing respectfully half a step behind Yi Xian. Master, who are you? Long Fei finally couldn't help it and stared at Yi Xian's eyes in confusion. Yi Xian chuckled and said to Long Fei in an unpleasant tone. You are the last one to join, so there are many things you don't know yet. But you should just take care of your little piece of land. #%. When Long Fei heard this, he was completely confused. No, this is also called 1 acre and 3 points of land. Master, I am now the number 1 in finance. Oh no, the number 2 in finance. Why am I still stuck in this small business? Long Fei pursed her lips, looked at Yi Xian with tearful eyes, and said aggrievedly. Chapter 159, Take the Li family's property. Okay, stop playing and come here. Yi Xian smiled and waved his hand, asking Long Fei to come over. Oh. Long Fei nodded and walked over obediently. Master, what's wrong? Yi Xian paused, then told Long Fei about the Li family's property. Oh my god. Master, you are too awesome. A hunk has fallen from the sky. When Long Fei heard that Yi Xian had taken over the Li family's affairs, her mouth opened wide and she gave Yi Xian a thumbs up. Okay, what I mean is that you go and help Sun Ji sort out Li Ai's property. This is a big project. After all, the Li family is still a big family. Well, do you have any questions? Upon hearing this, Long Fei nodded heavily and patted his chest with a smile. He. Master, don't worry, I will complete the task. A few days later, inside the Li family in China. Before this, the Li family was prosperous and could be considered a large family. Even among the 8 major families, it was one of the most powerful ones. Moreover, the Li family's pharmaceutical industry is the undisputed overlord in China, occupying more than half of China's traditional Chinese medicine industry. Moreover, the companies and factories under the Li family are spread all over China, completely opening up the entire Chinese market. So this time, the Li family asked Li Yanji to discuss cooperation with the Amba family in order to expand the overseas market. But what they didn't expect was that, because of Li Yanji, this originally good thing actually developed into such a dramatic situation. At this time, in various branches of the Li family members who were usually proud and domineering now looked lost, with dull eyes, and were busy packing their things. Well, the entire Li family was filled with wailing at this time. People were packing up their things helplessly, sighing from time to time, and reluctance was written all over everyone's face. However, they had no choice because they were facing Yi Xian, a person who made them feel terrified. Moreover, Yi Xian's words were very clear. This time, they would be forced to move out of their home. What's even more tragic is that, apart from underwear, you are not allowed to take away any other valuables. Cars, houses, antiques, jewelry, bank cards and other assets all became someone else's wedding dress in an instant. There was also someone next to them supervising and urging them, and his tone was quite impatient. Hurry up. Don't dawdle. These already belong to Mr. Yi, hurry up. The people of the Li family felt so aggrieved at this moment. These things originally belonged to them, and now not only have they been taken away by someone else, but they were also criticized for being slow. What was going on? You are really going too far. These originally belonged to our Li family. You are all robbers, you are all thieves. At this time, a young master finally couldn't help himself and yelled at the people who were supervising nearby. The young master's eyes turned red for a moment, and he was about to take action, but in just a moment, he was subdued to the ground by several people, and a knife was placed directly on his neck. What did you say? A middle-aged man was holding a knife, with the blade less than a centimeter away from his throat. I didn't say anything. The young master immediately gave in and didn't dare to say anything else. At this moment, Li Shi also came over and couldn't help himself when seeing this situation. Stop. We have already started moving. Don't go too far. This is too much? The man holding the knife laughed, and his eyes suddenly became fierce. Li family's third young master, Li Yanji, joined forces with the Amba family to attack General Yi Long in a foreign land in order to obtain the Qingling potion. Isn't this too much? Besides, your Li family has existed in the world for so many years, and you must have done a lot of things like bullying others, killing people, and robbing them, right? Now that we have helped you pick up the trash, we can be said to be getting rid of harm for the people and bringing peace to the world. You cough cough. Li Shi's face immediately turned black, and he was extremely angry, but he couldn't vent it. He just felt a sweetness in his throat and almost vomited blood. The other members of the Li family also felt extremely depressed at this moment. They could only pack their luggage in despair and leave this familiar place. Damn it! If it weren't for this loser Li Yanji, how could we have come to this point? Yeah, this guy is such a pest, he's dead, so what? He made us so miserable. Humph. It's too good for him to be dead. If this guy is still alive, I will never let him have a good life in my life. For a moment, the people of the Li family no longer had to say anything to the supervisors, but instead directed their criticism towards Li Yanji. The man with the knife and the others didn't care about what was happening and just listened to them cursing with interest. But when they were packing up, several people from the medical family came to the door of the Li family's courtyard. When they saw Li Shi and his men coming out, they were still a little respectful, giving the last bit of face to this family that was once the overlord of the medical field. Master Li Shi. Are you all right? You know this, let's go. Li Shi looked at them and knew clearly in his mind that these people just wanted to come and get a piece of the pie. Thinking of this, Li Shi also sighed. This is really a tiger in a state of decline, anyone can come and grab it. Let's go. Let's go. We are leaving soon. Li Shi sighed and muttered something as he sadly left the place where he had spent most of his life. At this time, the visitors from these families saw that everyone from the Li family had left, and they sighed and started talking about it. Alas, this time, it seems that all of the Li family's assets have been handed over to Sun Ji and a little girl to manage. This person is sent by General Yi Long, he is no ordinary person. Indeed, but Sun Ji seems to want to use our equipment. What should we do? One of them asked the question in confusion, while the others just laughed. What should we do? Why don't we just rush over and get close to them? The Li family's previous experience is already here. And I always feel that this time, Sun Ji and Mr. Yi seem to be going to stir up a storm. The man was talking, and the others frowned, and suddenly they all thought of something. At this time, Sun Ji had also returned from abroad and came to the Li family's property. He looked around inside and out and nodded. This is indeed a big family that once occupied most of the country. The foundation is extremely profound. Machine factories, personal connections, and industrial chains are all lost. That's great. The medicine can be mass-produced. Sun Ji muttered to himself with a smile, but even he was scared by himself when he said this. In an instant, he suddenly felt a chill rising from the soles of his feet and going straight to his forehead. Before, the master said that the production capacity was too small, and then Li Yanji from the Li family came to discuss the deal. But it just so happened that the master came to his place during those few days. What happened next? Was it a setup, waiting for Li Yanji to jump? Including going to the southern three places in the end, meeting Li Yanji again, and joining forces with the Amba family. Thinking of this, Sun Ji's thoughts extended further and further, and he even felt terrified when he thought about it. At this point, Sun Ji didn't dare to think about it anymore. He quickly shook his head and removed the idea from his mind. We can't think of anything else at this moment. Let's quickly mass-produce the spirit-purifying potion according to Master's idea. Sun Ji took a deep breath and immediately walked to the other side. Afterwards, after Sun Ji had finished everything, he began to mass-produce the Qingling potion in full swing according to Yi Xian's arrangement. On Yi Xian's side, he was taking Wang Xiniao and a few little girls to play in the ancient city in the southwest. Chapter 160, 8-Way Discussion Meeting. This ancient southwestern city has architectural features that are quite ethnic in style, giving people a sense of simplicity and tranquility. Walking in the ancient city, the sunlight shines through the gaps in the eaves and falls between the bluestone bricks and tiles of the ancient city, and the willow trees are also accompanied by the sound of chirping. The surrounding walls are also covered with moss and vines, and it seems to blend in with the green mountains and waters here. The ancient city has a central street running through the middle, with various shops on both sides of the street. The alleys behind the shops are where local ethnic minorities live, and there is also a medium-sized inland river in the middle. The river flows gently, and from time to time tourists rent boats to drift gently in the river, experiencing a different angle to appreciate the ancient city full of historical and cultural charm. The scenery here is retro, far away from the hustle and bustle of the city. Everything becomes comfortable, and so is people's mood. Especially at this time, wandering on the streets of this ancient city and feeling the ancient scenery of this ancient city, it is really an indescribable feeling. Yi Xian was walking on the street with a few little girls, explaining the local customs and culture to them. The ethnic minorities have many different living habits and festivals from us. For example, the ethnic minorities around the ancient city in the southwest also have their own different ethnic festivals. The ethnic minorities here are quite hospitable. When they receive foreign guests, they often cook cattle and slaughter sheep, celebrate the arrival of the guests with singing and dancing, and play their own style of music with reed pipes and other ethnic instruments. The most fascinating thing is that they have a long-standing traditional cultural heritage, such as batik, embroidery, and silver jewelry, which are all indispensable national cultures in our Chinese land. And the special food here is also very tempting. The little guys were listening very carefully at this time. They were fascinated when they heard Yi Xian talking about the characteristics and cultural differences of the ethnic minorities here. Dad is so awesome. How come he knows everything? This is the first time I've heard of this. Hey, this is really interesting. The little guys were quite excited. After all, this ancient city was one of the more fun places they found during this period of time. Moreover, there are various shops on both sides of the street, selling souvenirs and ethnic food. Along the way, the little girls never stopped eating and tasted many delicious foods that they had never eaten before. They must have felt so comfortable at this moment. At this time, Yi Xian noticed an antique shop on the side of the road and immediately smelled a scent coming from inside. This tung oil smells good. Yi Xian murmured in a low voice, then took a few little ones into the shop selling oil paper umbrellas. As soon as they entered the store, they were attracted by the rows and rows of oil paper umbrellas. Yi Xian walked around the store carefully, selected the most suitable and beautiful oil paper umbrella, paid for it, and personally delivered it to Wang Xinyao. "Xinyao, this one is for you, see if you like it?" Wang Xinyao smiled and nodded, with a charming blush on both sides of her cheeks. After opening the green oil paper umbrella, Wang Xinyao leaned the umbrella handle against her shoulders, turned gently, and then stood in front of everyone with an elegant posture. "How is it? Does it look good?" Wang Xinyao smiled and winked at Yi Xian and the little girls, with a hint of shyness and love hidden in her beautiful eyes. At this time, Wang Xinyao was holding an oil paper umbrella and wearing a long floral dress. Coupled with her stunning appearance, she immediately gave everyone the flavor of a Jiangnan beauty. This feeling is like being on a small bridge in the south of the Yangtze River with a mild climate and misty rain, when a peerless beauty holding an oil paper umbrella looks back and draws the curtain, giving people a sense of beauty that is elusive but reaches the bottom of the heart. Yi Xian and a few little girls looked at Wang Xinyao at this moment. She was beautiful, but also had an extra special temperament. It was simply a scenery that could not be seen in the world. She was a stunning beauty that fell into fireworks. Mom is so beautiful. The little guys all opened their mouths wide, and then pestered Yi Xian, clamoring for an oil paper umbrella as well. "Dad, we want oil paper umbrellas too. Dad, you can't just buy it for Mom and not buy it for us. Besides, this umbrella is so small, buy a few more so you can keep out the rain." Suddenly, several little guys gathered around Yi Xian, blinking their big watery eyes and looking at Yi Xian's eyes expectantly. "Okay, Dad will buy it for you." Yi Xian smiled dotingly, rubbed the faces of the little ones, and then took them to pick out some smaller oil paper umbrellas. "Hey, thanks, Dad." The little guys couldn't let go of the umbrella and walked out of the store, wishing they could give Yi Xian another kiss on the face. It wasn't raining, but these little girls still opened their oil paper umbrellas. They looked at mine, then looked at yours, and finally they even competed to see whose was the prettiest. "Mine is the prettiest, and mine is pink." Yi Yan's mouth was puffed up. She was very satisfied with the oil paper umbrella with pink floral fan in her hand. "No. Xiaoxi's is the best looking." She was not convinced either. She gently turned the emerald green oil paper umbrella with flower patterns in her hand with a very happy expression. "These little guys, why are they so conceited? Wang Xinyao and Yi Xian walked behind. Looking at the silly looks of the little guys, Wang Xinyao couldn't help but smile. Because their mothers are so beautiful. Yi Xian walked aside and spoke in Wang Xinyao's ear with a wicked smile. Hubby. I hate it. When Wang Xinyao heard this, her pretty face suddenly turned red and she leaned her head on Yi Xian's shoulder. The little guys were either excitedly looking at the surrounding scenery or playing with their oil paper umbrellas, and they didn't notice the sweet scenes between Wang Xinyao and Yi Xian behind them. After walking around for a while, everyone felt a little thirsty, so Yi Xi pulled Yi Xian's hand and pointed to a beverage shop nearby. Dad, there's something delicious here. Yi Xian looked in the direction Yi Xi pointed. It was a beverage shop with exquisite decoration. They sold local drinks, with black tea being the main product. Okay, let's go buy some tea first, and then Dad will take you to play on the boat. Yi Xian nodded, turned around and looked at the girls and said. Good. The little ones nodded obediently, and then the whole family walked into the beverage shop one after another. Hello, 7 cups of signature black tea, all with sugar. After ordering the drinks, Yi Xian took the little ones and sat in the lounge inside the store and waited. After a while, several young men and women walked in. These young masters and young ladies are all wearing famous brands, and their temperaments are extraordinary. The only difference is that these guys don't look like those dandy young men who have been hollowed out. Instead, they are full of energy and spirit, and between their sword-like eyebrows and star-like eyes, there is a sense of righteousness. Regardless of whether they are men or women, they all have a capable look. Although they are lean, they also seem to be able to bulge muscles at any time. They are full of explosive power at first glance. At this time, these young masters and young ladies also walked in happily and came in to buy black tea. A few people walked to the counter and looked at a young man who was about their age and said with a grin. Mr. He, we have come all the way here from all over the place, you have to show your hospitality. Yeah, we're all thirsty now, why don't you make us a few good drinks? Hurry up, I'm dying of thirst all the way. He Yang looked up and was stunned when he saw that it was these people. Then he smiled unhappily. Come on, everyone knows why you are here. Aren't you here just to go to that place? How can you come to see me? After being exposed, the few people smiled awkwardly for a moment. He Yang did not waste any time and warmly invited them inside, then sat down with them. Wow! What a cute little girl! As soon as they sat down, the young ladies saw Yi Xian and his family here. When they saw the little guys, they couldn't help themselves and walked over to Yi Xian and his family in 2 steps. Hello, little ones. You guys are so cute. I love you guys so much. Ha, do you want to make friends with your sister? The young ladies first politely gestured to Yi Xian and Wang Xinyao, and after getting permission, they approached the little ones. Hello, sisters. The little girls looked at these older sisters and also had a favorable impression of them, and greeted them in their baby voices. Well, that's good. Several young ladies were laughing happily. They were completely attracted by Yi Jing and the other girls. They even forgot what they were here for. Oh, these women. The young masters nearby were watching this scene and were helpless. They thought that these sisters were always very fierce when they fought, but they still couldn't resist the temptation of the cute baby. Afterwards, the young ladies teased the little girls and then sat back reluctantly. By the way, the 8 Directions discussion meeting is about to begin. 8-way discussion meeting? At this moment, Yi Xian was stunned, and then he smiled with relief. It turns out that it has been almost 60 years. As far as Yi Xian knew, this 8 Directions Forum was held once every 60 years. Chapter 161, Divine Soldiers Descend from the Sky. A few little guys nearby were puzzled when they heard this. They opened their eyes wide and looked at the young ladies and asked politely. Sister, what is the 8 Directions discussion meeting? Is it a party? Are there lots of delicious food? Sister, are you all going to this 8 Directions discussion meeting? After hearing the questions from the little girls, they realized that they had to break their promise. Looking at the innocent faces of the girls, they couldn't help but lie. Ah! This 8 Directions discussion meeting is just like a temple fair. One of the young ladies wiped her sweat and explained to the little girls. Oh! Is that so? Thank you, sister. The little guys nodded and finally understood what it meant. After thanking the young lady, they stopped asking questions. After fooling around, a few people looked at each other and reminded each other that they must be careful with their words and actions when they are out here. Ahem, let's talk about the grand event with the 4 Chinese families. Mr. He, who are you going to send to fight this time? A young man coughed twice and looked at He Yang beside him. Well. Unexpectedly, He Yang just sighed, waved his hand and said nothing more. It's not that he doesn't want to say it, the problem is that he is also suffering in his heart. He doesn't even know where to start. After all, the backbone of their He family had been completely destroyed in the last event, so how could they still be able to produce it this time? Originally they wanted to recruit talents before this, but it was so difficult and not an easy task. Everyone, your tea is ready. At this time, the waiter at the counter came over, holding a tray of black tea, and walked to the table where Yi Xian and others were. Thank you, sister. After thanking the waitress, the little girls took the tea. Delicious. After waiting for a long time, the little guys couldn't wait to have a taste. So sweet, so delicious. Dad. You try it too. Yi Shi picked up her black tea and handed it to Yi Xian for a sip. How's it, Dad? Is it delicious? Delicious. Yi Xian smiled and then put down the black tea, which had sugar in it. If you had to say it, the quality of the black tea was pretty average. Thinking of this, Yi Xian couldn't help but sigh. His tea was so good but was not sought after by these girls. But this thing became a good thing after adding some sugar. It seems that these little guys know too little. Yi Xian shook his head helplessly, watching the little guys drinking with big gulps, and suddenly missed his own tea. After drinking tea and resting for a while, Yi Xian took them to the riverside of the ancient city, and talked with a smile as they walked. Well, we'll pick one out in a minute, and Dad will take you to play on the boat. Yeah. The little guys immediately became excited. After all, taking a boat ride was still very attractive.